What's up? What's up? What's up, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to TD Fans Talk, home of the real Miami Dolphin fans, guys. We are live on another beautiful day, March 20th, 2020. Coming up on the noon hour, coming up to noon, guys. Welcome to TD Fans Talk. If you're new to the channel, hit that subscribe button. We are 35 subscribers away from 8,000. Just beautiful times on the channel, guys. Make sure you hit that like button on your way in the room. Shout out to Engraving Vids. I see you, homie. The first, well, not the first one in the building. Robert was, but shout out to Engraving. Again, that's my homie. Y'all make sure y'all check him out on Engraving Vids. He's right here. So hit that avatar. He's always live giving you up-to-date information of what's happening in the league. Plus, he's a Ravens fan. We'll see if who's gonna be better next year, whether it's gonna be the Dolphins or the Ravens. We coming back for revenge if we see him in the playoffs, y'all, because we're a little upset about what happened last year. But I'll get off of that. I'll get off of that subject. What's up with your EM? Hit me up, bro, if you want to join the conversation. This will be a good one. The reason why I say that is because we're talking quarterbacks. First, I'm going to give the news that I've been talking to some people about this morning and reading about, hearing about, and we're going to be able to bring in some of the panelists to have some conversations about this. But yes, man. Oh, what was that? My bad. But yes, let's get to it, y'all. Shout out DM. I see you, man. Rip Tupac in the building. Finsanity 5 as always, guys. So let's get started, guys. So first off, I want to give y'all some information, okay? Because a lot of people have heard this, heard that, haven't heard this, haven't heard that. I want to give you some of the facts surrounding a lot of the situations going on with the Miami Dolphins and the quarterback in our search for our future quarterback, okay? We already know we got Fitzpatrick, who is a gap right now. He's a gap stop. Basically, we're utilizing his services to provide leadership, help us win some games right now, and teach a young quarterback to become a pro. Josh Rosen is the one that we have currently on the roster that's being taught. Many don't believe in Josh Rosen. There's a select few that still do believe in Josh Rosen, but he is also an option that's sitting there at the quarterback position. Now, since 2018, late in the season, the Miami Dolphins have been rumored to covet Tua Tagovailoa, Alabama's starting quarterback, national championship winner, for quite some time now. And those rumors never stopped because our media fell in love with the idea and they rode with it even up till this day. Even up till this day, ladies and gentlemen. All right. And breaking news, Anthony Edwards is entering into the draft. Edwards is ranked number 1 on ESPN draft board. Just so you know, Anthony Edwards is entering the NFL draft. That's pretty late to find out, but that is breaking news right now. The number 1 on the board, Anthony Edwards, is now entering into the NFL draft. I don't know what that does at the top of the draft board, if that moves some things around. But I'll evaluate that one later, guys. I just wanted to tell y'all that because I just saw it, okay? All right, so back to business, okay? Tua Tagovailoa, we've rumored to just be marveled about the guy, and then all of a sudden he has another injury that was a little more serious, and then everybody paused for a second and said, hold on, are we really sold and all in on this guy? Who knows, right? So Miami Dolphins have been doing their due diligence. They've watched Tua Tagovailoa in his college time. Greer has seen him 4 times at the quarterback position playing. Stephen Ross has seen him twice play. So obviously he is a highly coveted prospect for the Miami Dolphins. Stephen Ross also came out after the last time he saw him play and said that he has major concerns about his health and his injury history. And, you know, I was actually shocked to hear that, because that's appreciative to know that we are considering it. And we do look at that. And I'm sorry, that is the NBA. I'm talking like it's the NFL. That's why I said I don't know much about that, but that is the NBA. The guard from Georgia is coming to the league. He's number 1 in the NBA. Please forgive me on that one. I thought it's all football right now. When I see guard, I'm like, man, a guard is the number 1 prospect on the board. And I was like, well, that's breaking news right now. But anyway, back to business, man. Tua we already know that Stephen Ross is concerned about his injury history and his most recent injury. Now, the Miami Dolphins, if we have the right organization in the front office, all we could do is hope. All we could do is hope that they're going to do their due diligence, okay? All we can do is hope that they do their due diligence and make sure that if they still wanted to draft Tua Tagovailoa, they made sure that it was the best decision possible. And Miami's been trying to do that, but they haven't been successful. Last week, they tried to bring Tua Tagovailoa in on a workout training and just to take a look at him medically since he's been cleared to do more football activities, and they were unsuccessful. A lot of talk about, due to the recent circumstances surrounding our country right now with the virus, that's why they've been unsuccessful. So the league has shut everything down. They weren't able to meet with him because they want to get a look at him. And then on top of that, they canceled the April 9th pro day in Alabama, so they can't see him. And now we're all the way down to Tua Tagovailoa, basically his agent telling everybody, we're going to do a workout and put it on film and send it to everybody. That ain't going to be good enough. People need to be right there up front and center seeing it firsthand. A video workout is not going to be good enough. If they do accept the video workout and let that be a major decision maker for them, then they need to have some specifications in regards to how they want that video footage recorded. We don't want no editing. We don't want you to, hey, let me see you throw the post. We don't want you to do it 10 times and then crop out the best one. We want to see you run this drill. We don't want to see you do it 5 times and crop out the best one. I would hope the Miami Dolphins would go ahead, since we can't bring them to the facilities. I know there's no traveling allowed right now, but send someone out there. Send someone out there. We're not going to be able to get a real look at this guy. We will be drafting Tua Tagovailoa blind. I don't care nothing about, he's going to be sending videos to the franchises. We're not going to be able to see those videos. They're going to show one clip on ESPN. Tua has sent videos, and they're going to show whatever 2 or 3 things that he did fabulous for like 8 seconds. That's what they're going to show. And then you're going to have things come out. GMs were impressed with the workout, X, Y, and Z, as they always do. But we're not going to be able to really see this guy because even though I said I hope we send someone out, technically we're not allowed to send anyone out because travel has been suspended in the NFL, even for vital personnel. They're the only ones still allowed to be at the facilities, but no players, no scouts, no any of that are allowed. No one's allowed to travel. So for all this talk about if the medical checks out and he looks good whenever we get to see him in a workout, then he's our guy. But how does that work when you don't get to really see him firsthand? Because I told y'all from day one, the medical's going to check out, but that has nothing to do with how it possibly could have affected his play or his ability to throw the deep ball loading back off of that hip. It's just a wonder, how is this going to happen? And then this is what blew my mind. We were unsuccessful bringing in Tua Tagovailoa last week, but we met with Jordan Love last week at the facilities. Now, mind you, I don't want to get y'all bent out of shape and be like, oh, we did? How did that happen? Jordan Love was in Miami. Jordan Love was in Miami. Or Florida, might I add. But we met with him. He did a workout. He did what he needed to do. but we weren't able to meet with Tua Tagovailoa, and we've been trying. You gotta make sure that you look at all those guys. We should be looking at Herbert, Love, Tua. We should be looking at Burrow, all those guys. But Burrow made it in the building, worked out. Haven't heard anything about the workout, what their thoughts were or anything. But he made it in last week, got his workout in, but we still haven't been able to see Tua. And then if you keep going, then you got Jordan Love. I'm saying Jordan Love, not Jordan Love. Joe Burrow, excuse me, y'all. Then you got Joe Burrow. The real question about Joe Burrow is this. Would Cincinnati be willing to trade? I'm tired of having the debate about Joe Burrow. The only question that matters is Cincinnati willing to trade, because I can tell you right now, if Cincinnati said, Miami, we're willing to trade 3 first-round picks, listen, my probability rating will go up to about 70% chance that Miami Dolphins will pull the trigger at this point. If the Cincinnati Bengals said, Miami, I want 3 first-round picks, I think at this point they would be willing to pull the trigger. That's my personal thoughts. Could be wrong. Like I said, just my personal thoughts. So the reality is, it's really on Cincinnati. But it's funny to me that yesterday I report this about Joe Burrow and about my own sentiments. Everybody ripped me up in the comment section when I looked at the video after I made it about, why would you want to do this? I already told you. I'm not even one who wants to do it. Why would you listen to that article? I already told you. I'm ignoring the article. But I'm not going to sit here and ignore the fact that it's a real possibility. I can't do that. I'm not going to end up like some people, and if it actually goes down that way, they're shocked, when in reality, no one should be. No one should be. But I talked about it yesterday morning, and everybody, TD, you made a video talking about this. You know that blah, 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 blah. That's why nobody else reported it. And as soon as I get off of my stream, almost every single major network had somebody on TV talking about it. Soon as I ended my stream, there you go, Colin Cowherd. Soon as I ended my stream, you got other people on ESPN, ESPN2, NFL Network talking about the conversation. I didn't listen to those guys and then came with what I said. I used common sense and felt that way myself, and all of a sudden, I'm ridiculous. But now almost every sports media network has reported on this and why they would do it if they were the Dolphins and the Bengals. Almost everybody. Absolutely, you do this if you're the Dolphins. Absolutely, if you do it if you're the Bengals, because you need so much more than the Dolphins if you're the Bengals. That isn't necessarily my sentiments, but everybody reporting it. Everybody's reporting it. Bill Clinton in the comment section said, TD, you are dead wrong. I don't understand what there is for me to be wrong about. I don't even understand what there is for me to be wrong about. I haven't made a declaration or said that this is what the Miami Dolphins are going to do. I said that this is a possibility. And if you think that this is a possibility is dead wrong, then, hey, man, go evaluate yourself, man. Go evaluate yourself, man. Come on now. The Miami Dolphins could very well move up and grab Joe Burrow, especially if the Bengals are down for it. Especially if they're down for it. Every news network reporting him. And then what's even crazier, Joe Burrow doesn't help the situation. He's making it worse. This is what got my eye. After the fact, I didn't see this until yesterday evening. Somebody goes online in social media and says the Miami Dolphins are, I don't know what they said. They said something like, we're on fire, we're loading up, we are having a great free agency. They said so. They complimented the Dolphins and what they've done so far. And Joe Burrow, the 21-year-old man, comes on and hits the like button for that post. He ain't making it no better. Now hey, that could be the smallest thing ever, but it's as serious as can be. He's active on social media, liking a post about the Miami Dolphins and what they're doing. Didn't mention his name or say anything, but he's paying attention and liking the post. Come on, man. And you can call me wrong on this, but I'll tell you this. I'm pretty confident Joe Burrow would rather be a Dolphin than a Bengal. I am pretty confident he'd rather be a Dolphin than a Bengal. You don't think that young kid knew you don't think he knew what that meant when he was sitting there reading that post and he hit that like button? You don't think he knew what that would start? Come on. Come on, guys. You don't think he knew what that meant? This man ain't crazy. And Reason's right. That goes for every player in the draft. Absolutely. They'd rather play for the Dolphins than the Bengals. If that's what you're talking about, Reason. Every player would. But guess what? One of them came out and made it clear. That's the difference. A lot of the other players in the league would just be glad to get drafted. Joe Burrow is coming out making it known in a little slight subtle way. You don't want to burn bridges. Doesn't want to burn bridges at all. Let me drop the link real quick, guys. I'm going to drop the link real quick. If you want to come in and join this conversation, I want to hear from some of you guys. Oh, my bad. I got to load this for y'all to come on. If you want to join this conversation, you can go ahead and come in. I just dropped the link in the comment section. This is real. This is real, man. Joe Burrow isn't making it any better. I can only imagine what's going on in the front office right now, what they're really thinking. What they're really thinking, man. And people think that we got to give up as much 3 first-round picks. I mean, you might look up and it's 2 first-round picks in a second. Where people are just throwing out 3 first-rounders. I even threw it out. And the crazy thing is, would we actually have competition at the quarterback position if we, regardless of who we drafted? Is there real competition? Because Fitz is just a middle of the road guy not a middle of the road guy. I mean that he's just there temporarily. He's there temporarily, man. We don't know who the Miami Dolphins are going to select. No one knows. But again, I'm reporting this news because we can't sit here and be oblivious to it. And it's funny, man. I was on Twitter earlier, and I read the post. Would you give up 3 first-round picks for Joe Burrow right now? And I was shocked. Over 1,000 responses. And I was actually shocked. I ain't gonna lie, because I know the TUA fan base is really big. The TUA Tagovailoa fan base is really big. But about 80% of the comments I read was absolutely bring him now. I'm a TUA fan and I do it. I was shocked. I did not. I at least expected war, 50-50. Absolutely not. This is stupid. Why would we? I expected war. But it was about 80% of the people, absolutely. And about 20%, nah, I'm good with Tua. I don't know, man. If this keeps heating up, things can shift. But the only thing that really matters is, what does Flores and Greer think about the situation right now? But there has been confirmed reports. This is one thing I will say. There has been confirmed reports that the Miami Dolphins do love Joe Burrow, and they have considered moving up for him. And it's always been a situation of the price. That's the only thing. It's always been about the price. It's not a case on whether would they move up or not. Yeah, they'll move up. It's just, what's the price? So I'm kind of curious, man, because I'm gonna start bringing some of the panelists on. I'm curious. I want them to start out by telling me, because I know they want to rebuttal to this, but I want to start out by them telling me this. What is the right price? What's your thoughts, Reason? What up, Ian?
What's good, homie?
What's good, homie? So to me, I mean, we've talked about this for a while. This isn't something new, right? Like, it's kind of becoming a recurring theme that Stephen Ross, I do think Stephen Ross is infatuated with him. I'll start with that. I've gone over about how good I think Joe Burrow is, to the point where EM got his behind on the film room on Joe Burrow after I was talking about him, and he did work, but he came out with a totally different perspective on Joe Burrow. Joe Burrow is very talented. It's just he's 25. I don't know how much of a ceiling he has left. So my thing is, would I be mad if they traded up for Burrow? Yes, depending on what it is. Like, I'm going to stay consistent. I don't think we should mortgage for anyone. And, I know Dolphins Twitter is, absolutely blowing up right now. And there's one guy, Orange Aquaman, who's constantly, Jason Sarney, who's constantly pushing it. And, he's running polls about the 5th, the 18th, and the 26th. So, I'm going to say this. If we Mike Brown, he does make all the football decisions there, right? And if we do our history, the New Orleans offered 6 draft picks, including 3 first-rounders for Achilles Smith, and he said no. And if you go back, you can find the quotes where he said, we were at a time, it was a generous offer, but we were at a time where we felt we needed a quarterback and needed to take that position. So I'm really worried about how much it would cost.
But what I want to know from you, Reason, is what price are you no longer mad about? Right on that edge. Okay, I do it. What is the cost? Is it 2 first-rounders and a 5th?
I think a reasonable cost would be the 5th, the 26th, and a 2nd and a 3rd. And I think anything higher than that is absolutely ridiculous. And we've gone over it. The fact that, we think that the Detroit Lions and the Redskins are starting at 2 first-rounders, that's why I think it's ridiculous, because if you go by the 2 first-rounders, okay, I believe it's if you go with the 5th and the 18th and then a 2nd and a 3rd, they would come out like about 200 points over value. The Bengals would. So
somebody, well, I'm sorry to cut you off, Reason. But, I want to make sure I defend you too. Cloud Life says, so now we selling the farm?
No.
In Reason's scenario, that's not selling the farm. So when you think about it, we would be giving up the 5th, the 26th, the 2nd, and the 3rd.
Yeah. And I think, TD, other people have to realize, and this has been talked about, especially since this rumbling has been talked about, that 26th, I mean, it's valuable, but it's nowhere near as valuable as the 18th. You know what I mean? So, I look at the 26th as you're just beating the 2nd round out. You're only 6 picks away from 32. I look at as you're just in front of the 2nd round. So is it really that big of a deal? No, not to me. But when we start talking, from everything I've understood, it's going to take the 15th, the 18th, the 5th, the 18th, and the 26th to even have the conversation, and I'm not okay with that.
So let me help people understand this, okay? Say that was the case. That was the price, and we did it a 5th, a 26, second, and a third. That's not giving away the farm because now you got the first, the 18th, and still have a second.
Yeah.
The first, the 18th, and still have a second. You still have 2 first-round picks and a second. So really, in your number 1 pick, and the guy that you possibly want. I don't think people talk about it enough. Reason because I don't know if EM's still here. He's we see under his steering column or something. We can't see him.
Yeah, I'm here, man. Yeah, I'm here, bro.
But so I don't think enough people understand how much Stephen Ross actually loves Joe Burrow.
That's what I think too. This reminds me of, we heard about the rumblings of his infatuations with Lamar Jackson. This seems like 100-fold. But
yeah, I've always ignored it. I've seen every report about it, just ignored it. But trust me, I see the history and the articles and the quotes about Joe Burrow from him.
And I want to ask you this, TD. I ran this by EM. Think about this. When you look at Herbert, and really think about this, when you look at Herbert, when you look at Love, when you look at Tua, and when you look at Burrow, who almost resembles a spitting image of Tom Brady? It's Joe Burrow.
I hate people comparing people with Tom Brady.
I don't like. No, I'm talking about when you talk about skill set, when you talk about actual build, how they play in the pocket. That's why the comps were there with him with Joe Montana. I mean, I heard people like scouts comping Burrow to Joe Montana. But when you step back and you look at skill set, how his build, I mean, it's a lot of similarities to Tom Brady. And that's where Brian Flores came from. I know people have also compared him to Tony Romo, which I do see a little bit in the arm. But when you look at him, I mean, when you go to the top 4 guys, that's your best comp, if any, to Tom Brady. And that's what makes me sit there and go,
No, I don't want people spreading false information. Someone said that if you may have to give up 5, 18, 26, and a second, we would go back to having 1 pick the first 4 rounds. That is not true because first of all, you get the first pick, you still have the second round pick, and we still got 3rd and 4th round picks. So that's not true at all. Not even close to being true. We still have picks. A pick, number 1 pick in the first. We still have our pick in the second. And what people have to understand is I don't even think a deal moving up with CC would solely be draft picks. I could see a situation where Albert Wilson's a part of it. I could see a situation where Xavier Howard's a part of it.
And you're
nobody's taking on Albert Wilson's contract. But
even if
David Howard.
Even if we were paying some of it from a salary standpoint. I mean, I'm just saying. I'm throwing it out there because we still haven't heard anything in that regards. We thought we would yesterday because there are some contractual things in his contract that I believe took effect yesterday. So we shall see in that note. I got to go do more research on that because we might be keeping Albert Wilson at the salary. I don't know yet. So just depends on how that plays out. But EM, I didn't get your take though, man. What's your thoughts, man?
Yeah, there seems to be a lot of conversation here as of late about Joe Burrow, and there should be. I mean, I want to be clear. There is a lot to like about Joe Burrow. Okay, a lot of his tape, man. The plays that he made. That he was making consistently. I mean, some of them take your breath away, so there should be a high level of interest in Burrow. Me personally, I just prefer Tua because I think long term, barring the durability issues in his hip, that's what I'm concerned about the most is his hip. Okay, but I just think there should be a lot of buzz around Joe Burrow considering the season that he had last year, his skill set. I mean, now he's less physically talented than all the other top quarterbacks. And that's where there's a concern for me, him translating to the next level. I prefer a quarterback with, at least above average arm strength at least. So Burrow, I mean, you know, there should be a lot of buzz around him. I mean, a lot of his tape, man, is breathtaking. I mean, he plays, he's like, damn. I mean, you know, so there should be, but I think I remember Reason mentioned this earlier about Stephen Ross's infatuation, how he just, you know, he just gets infatuated with every quarterback. It seems like, you know, all these top names every single year. The question is he gonna lean on Brian Flores and Chris Greer and kind of lean on him and say, look, this is the guy I want, make it happen? That's the question. And whether or not Flores and Greer are on board with that. And also,
they could feel the same way.
They could and they could not. And also, this could be smoke, bro. This could be more smoke to because I saw a report this morning that the Chargers are extreme. I mean, it's a real possibility for them to jump us to 3 and select Tua.
I heard 2 this morning. I heard that possibly them jumping us to number 2 to get Tua.
Yeah. Here's where I am at this today. Okay. If our staff is that enamored with Burrow or Tua, either one of them, okay, you have to get one of them. I don't want them to be in a situation where they have to settle for, you know, the next best consolation prize. I don't want that. You're in a situation, you're within striking distance to target any player that you covet. Okay, and if Burrow is the apple of your eye, he's not mine. I want to be clear on that. But you get him. You move. I don't want them to trade. I do not want to trade. I want to be clear. I do not want to trade up for any player. But I'm trying to put myself in Brian Flores, Chris Greer, and Stephen Ross's shoes. Okay, if Burrow is the apple of your eye, okay, move heaven and earth to get him. If Tua is what I've been hearing consistently for a year now, even up until yesterday, Tua is still the target, but the hip is a concern. If Tua is the apple of your eye, you move heaven and earth to get him. One of those two. So
this is where I am on that, EM, because I want to have this slight dialogue with you. First I want to be clear to everybody watching and everybody who's gonna watch this. I don't think anyone who's on this show feels different about this fact, and that is none of us want to use assets to go move up. For some reason, people argue in the comment section and stuff as if we want to. This channel is designed to bring you all the options and all the possibilities of what could happen so you're not shocked. And we continue to give you our analysis on, we don't want that to happen. I don't want to give up the farm. But at the same token, these are real possibilities because we got to understand how the front office feels. They feel like they have to get their guy now. And this is a prime opportunity where you have to give up certain things to get what you want. So I wanted to say that on that note, because I noticed EM said it too. He doesn't want to. So understand that, people. He doesn't want to, just like I don't want to. I don't think Reason wants to. Insanity, Ball Game, anybody who comes on, I don't think they want to. But it is a possibility, and we're exploring that, what it would look like and what we would take and what would we do, what would be reasonable in those scenarios. But one place where I guess me and EM, we differ, bro, is here's the fine line where we differ. You move heaven and earth and go get the guy you want if there's no concerns. But one of those guys has concerns, and I'm not talking about on the field. I'm talking about the concerns, the physical concerns.
And I get that. I totally understand that, TD.
And that's why I wouldn't move heaven and earth if Tua was my guy.
And you can see that if they have Tua and Burrow graded out, if the margin between those two in terms of their overall grade is minuscule, I can see why Miami would they would go in the direction of Joe Burrow because of the hip concerns. You know what I'm saying? I can see that. I mean, that's smart business right there.
Well, the other thing too is you got to remember, like, although, Chan Gailey's offense, which is like a West Coast air raid hybrid, which is very similar to what Alabama runs. Joe Burrow just ran a West Coast hybrid, and the terminology is going to be a lot of the same. So it's going to be a pretty easy scheme fit for Joe Burrow in this Chan Gailey. Yeah, for either one. For either one, it's going to be easier schematically for those two because you add in how polished they are. But then when you get into, they know the scheme, they know the terminology. Whereas Justin Herbert, he's never taken a snap under center. You're going to have to get him acclimated to all of it. Same with Jordan Love. So that's why I see why they're infatuated. And another thing is, TD, after all these signings, we don't have nearly as many glaring holes as we had, but we still have 14 picks. But we still have 14 picks.
That's the whole point. That's the change. That's
And
the change. We don't have all those things anymore.
That very well might be a reason why Miami is more inclined to mortgage more to move up for their respective targets.
Yep.
I still wouldn't do that. I don't recommend that.
Oh, I agree.
That might be.
I mean, the one thing is they're not worried about setting the edge anymore. That's for sure. I mean, really, what do we look at? We look at offensive line, quarterback, and safety, and then depth everywhere else.
So, now, as we sit here now,
that's not 14 picks. That's not 14 picks, EM. That's what I'm just saying. You know what I mean?
I agree 100%, bro. So, but yeah,
And then what do we have? We have 9 picks next year, I think, right now as it sits, right?
Yeah. Yep.
So I mean, we're talking about 23 picks in 2 years, and we don't have a lot of glaring holes.
Right.
And watch this. Let me see if y'all on cue with me. What is the most valuable pick that we have between this year and next year?
The fifth or the Texans pick? The fifth or the Texans?
The fifth.
The Houston's pick.
And Houston's pick. People underestimate how valuable that Houston's pick is right now.
One injury away.
And right now, because they can get better or they can get worse. But right now, this is optimal. You should be, if you're talking shopping, that pick should be thrown in people's face, carroted, because everybody around the league has been talking about what are the Texans doing. They're about to be they're going to be one of the lower end teams next year.
To be honest with you,
so much value.
TD, to be honest with you, I wouldn't be dangling it. I'd be dangling our pick next year. And the reason why is because, brother, if that ends up a top 5 pick and it's not even Lawrence, but it's a position where a team can get Justin Fields, all of a sudden you're adding more capital to your landscape. So I don't know, man. I would be more inclined to let that Houston pick play out because I don't think they're making the playoffs as is already. And if Tunsil goes down or Watson goes down, God forbid, don't wish injury on anyone, but it's a wrap.
I'm not touching that. Nobody. I'm not moving that Houston pick under any until next year. until we see where they're picking next year. Until we see where it falls. So,
TD, imagine if it ends up being the Trevor Lawrence pick. Oh my God. You think you can get a lot for Joe Burrow?
Oh my God. Oh. Can you imagine the price?
You'd be laughing.
Minimum.
You'd be laughing.
Three first round picks.
Minimum.
That ain't the minimum. Minimum probably.
Yeah, I said 3 to 4 would be the minimum. You're only sitting down at the table if we're talking 3 or 4 draft picks.
So can you imagine that, bro? Oh my God.
That would be sickening, man. So, what's up, J Rose? You good?
I'm good.
That's what's up, man. Hey, if you're on your phone, turn it to the side and landscape. It'll probably give a better view for everybody. But there you go, perfect. Hey, so J Rose, we want to hear what your thoughts are on this quarterback situation, and then Reason. I'm gonna step away for a few minutes. If you could handle it for me, because I know EM driving too.
Yeah.
Okay, so my view on a quarterback situation is, I can understand if they like Joe Burrow. He a good prospect, just like Tua is a good prospect. But I just don't want to give up 3 first-round picks for Joe Burrow. That's the whole point I'm trying to make. Like, because I feel like if we give up 3 first-round picks to get Joe Burrow, we're going to miss out on some of these offensive linemen that we could get. We got Mekhi Becton, Tyler Biadasz, whoever, all of these good other prospects that's going to go early because teams are needy for like old linemen. They need old linemen. So these guys are going to go off the board quicker than we think. And for us to give up that much capital, I feel like we're not going to be able to grab them or grab the ones we want. You know what I'm saying? What y'all think?
So I think with
hey, I'm about to step away for a second and let you roll reason, but I just have to respond on that if y'all don't mind real fast. See, I'm gonna play devil's advocate here for a second, okay? Again, I don't want to move up, and I get the whole point of not giving up the draft picks, but sometimes we got to take a step back and really think about this too. Imagine us fixing our team and we just still don't have the quarterback and we're wasting 2, 3, 4 valuable years of the team that we built, and now we got to purge that again.
True.
At some point, we do have to stop and say we have to put the right person there with the highest probability of getting it done. So that I just wanted to say that would be keep that in your mind. It might be Tua, bro. It might be, but right now they have a decision to make. And right now, it's going to be hard to get a better opportunity because you're not going to be the number 1 pick next year, unless it's Houston, of course. But you're not going to lose that amount of game. So this is your opportunity now, and they've already gone on record saying we will get our quarterback this year.
Yeah.
So and they won't be. They will know. They won't be. I mean, if Miami is as successful as we think they will be next year, they will be nowhere near striking distance. They would have to mortgage. Oh my God!
Way more,
way more, and it's only one quarterback prospect that I'm willing to do a potential deal like that for, and that's Trevor Lawrence. All these other ones, no, I'm not doing that. But yeah, now is the time they put themselves in this position strategically to get within striking distance of a potential target that they deem worthy. Make it happen. Either me again. So these people out here in the comment section don't start with the EM's trying to backtrack. No, I'm clear. I want Tua. Move heaven and earth to get Tua. But if they have a similar grade, overall grade between Burrow and Tua, and it's not, and the difference between the two is minuscule, I could see where they would be, that hip is. I'm concerned about his hip. So just get one of them. Just get one of them.
You'd be lying to yourself if you said you're not concerned about his hip. But here's my thing. With 18, I don't think you're gonna get a guy like Mekhi Becton or Wirfs. I don't think even though we did the mock, I don't even think Jedrick Wills will be there. I'd be super shocked if Andrew Thomas was there. And then when you go to the 26, I feel like you can get similar talent at 39. So that really doesn't bug me in terms of value. You can get at 26 as opposed to 39. And when you think about the interior, I mean, Biotish isn't probably going to go until, closer to 100. I don't think he's going to go in the top 2 rounds. If I think Cesar Ruiz and I think Lloyd Cushenberry are going to go before him, and I think you can get one of those guys with 56 or 70. I see maybe Cesar Ruiz at near the top of the second going, but if not, he's going to be middle of the second, bottom of the second, and that's the top center. So, that's the thing. That's why if it's the 5th and the 26th, and a second from next year and a third, that's fine. But if we're starting to talk about I need the 5th, the 18th, the 26th, and a first next year, then I don't know what you're smoking in Cincinnati, but you need to dud that out, put it in the ashtray, and get back to work, because that's craziness. And the issue I have with that is you could say to me, "Oh, would you do that for Burrow?" And I might actually say, you know what, let's talk 3 first for Burrow, because for Trevor Lawrence story, I might actually consider that, because I think Trevor Lawrence has a far higher ceiling than Burrow, and I keep going back to that. Burrow's 25. I think we've really seen what he can do in a pro style offense, because that's what he ran. So I don't really see an enormous ceiling. Like when I've said this before, when I go over these 4 guys, it goes Love, Herbert, Tua, and then Burrow in terms of ceiling. And with Herbert and Love, I see massive ceilings. With Tua, I see a considerable ceiling. I don't see massive, but I see a ceiling. With Burrow, I see the ceiling is like right here over his head. He's just ready to bump it. You know what I mean? So that's why I don't like. Look at Trevor Lawrence right now. He's lost one time in high school and in college. Okay, he's got to work a bit on his mechanics, especially with his head motions. And he dips his, like you saw in that championship game when he started getting pressure, because we really hadn't seen him get pressure like that. He started dipping his body forward a little bit. The ball started going high. His front arm mechanics weren't that very good. So does that worry me? Sure. But I mean, you can coach that out. And for the most part, he's a pretty polished passer. And when you're talking about a polished passer like Lawrence with a huge ceiling, then I get why teams want to say, okay, here's 3 firsts, here's 4 firsts. But with Burrow, I don't think, like, I'm more okay mortgaging on a guy with a massive ceiling as opposed to mortgaging on a guy who doesn't have a massive ceiling. Because when I look at massive ceiling, I talk about Marino, I talk about Luck, I talk about Peyton Manning. You know what I mean? And Marino and Luck, they came in and took and Elway, they came in and took you guys took bad teams to winning records right away. I don't know if Burrow can do that. You know what I mean? If Tua is healthy, I think he can do that. I think. But if Trevor Lawrence is on the table, I know he can do that.
Yeah.
And that's where we get into the difference with mortgaging all this future and stuff like that. So, I mean, we've talked about this months ago. Remember, we were warning all of you about, like, hey, what if he pulls an Eli Manning and he says, I don't want to go there? And, it's just not him liking that Bleacher Report Gridiron tweet. What it was Bleacher Report Gridiron. They listed out all of our moves, and he liked, and with like money emojis and everything, and he liked it. And, everyone went off and da-da-da-da-da. But he's been doing subtle things like that for a while now. I mean, I don't know if you remember, Jay Rose, but do you remember the meme that TD shared on the community tab where it showed the Dolphins peeking in and Joe Burrow sitting at a desk, and they flirt, and then he leaves, and then the Bengals come and he's screaming for HR, right? So it's been out there. This isn't new. You know what I mean? So
I don't see Joe Burrow getting much better than he already is. Like, the way he played in college this last year, he basically like did everything he could do. Like, you know what I'm saying, to like show teams that he's the guy. You know what I'm saying? I don't see him getting any more better. But like prospects like Love, even Tua, I feel like Tua could get like a lot better. I don't know. Joe Burrow, I could understand. I could see what they saying, that the owner is like all googly eyes over Joe Burrow. I could see that. I could definitely see that. So I don't know. If they get him, they get him. You know what I'm saying? I won't be mad about it. But I also won't be mad if they pick Jordan Love, because I could see a very high ceiling for him.
Yeah, that's what I see having the highest ceiling, because it's crazy. Herbert has had the best line in the nation for the past 2 years. Even when Love had that really good season, not this year, but the year before, he had competent like weapons. Like his best weapon was Darwin Thompson from Kansas City, one of the backup running backs.
Yeah.
So, but like, he had competent, like he didn't have an elite O-line. He had good receivers, and he had a good running game. He had nothing great. You know what I mean? So, and when you watch the tape of Jordan Love, and I've said this before, I'll say this again. Herbert, you might get a deep throw once, maybe twice a game where you're like, wow, that's a really nice throw. But I'm telling you, you watch Jordan Love, especially in that game against Wyoming. I counted in that Wyoming game, there were 9 times where I said, oh my God, what a throw. I literally went back. I watched it once, and I went back and watched it again, all the offensive snaps again, because I wanted to count how many times I said, oh my God. And you see that consistently from Jordan Love. Like, that's the big difference. Why a lot of people compare him to Mahomes is Love can throw off any angle. And none of the top 4 guys other than him can do that. So,
And I do listen, y'all. This team does covet Jordan Love. Okay, I have my reasons to be convinced. The team does covet Jordan Love. At this point, I'm starting to draw my own conclusions about the situation. I think that I really do have a strong feeling that he is the contingency plan of these top guys. If those don't work out, they're going to go with their guy, get all those other players, and keep it moving and see what they can do. In regards to Burrow, like Marvin says, where was Burrow before last season? Doesn't even matter. Not to me. Where was he last season? And I know every bit of where he was, what he was, how he was, when he was, whatever you want to add in front of that. Okay.
TD, my only question to you is this. Mm-hmm. When last year, that was like one of your biggest concerns about Tua's personal ability, because you felt like he was more a product of what he had around him, right? Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So with Burrow, he only has 1 year of this kind of, now don't get me wrong, it's tremendous production, but that concern, that's where when you say that you're not concerned about Burrow, I don't understand, because you were criticizing Tua about being a potential product of what's around him. Burrow is basically showing you that. You know what I mean? He didn't have the. Go ahead.
No, that's a good question. So for all y'all who are new to the channel and weren't around months and months and months ago, not quite a year, but about probably 4 or 5 months ago, when we had these conversations about, I used to always say, Tua, man, he's a product of everything around him. He's a first read guy. That was my biggest distinction between him and Joe Burrow, because I admittedly said all the time, Joe Burrow has a perfect situation too. The difference is Joe Burrow, I actually was able to witness in every game progressions. Going through his progressions, hitting the third progression, the third's not even open, but coming back to you see what I'm saying? So that was my biggest thing, the difference. Some of these players are going to be in perfect situations. It's not a problem that they're in perfect situations for them, but it's a problem for an organization that wants to draft you, because they need to see you at some point in a non-perfect situation to really get a game. Reason just said it himself. Quarterback was thrown in a worse situation. I mean, who you were talking about, Love?
Yeah.
Thrown into a worse situation, and this started to happen. It didn't look great. That started to happen, and it didn't look great. But you can coach that up. But you want to know that. You want to know that being a GM, bringing a guy in. You want to know that.
But listen, TD, this is why when I hear not just you, but when I hear other people, online trying to make that argument, the number one responsibility of the coach is not to put them in, and is to limit as many adverse situations as possible for any prospect. So when people say that, I cringe when I hear that, because that's the number one goal of the coach is put every player in the best situation to succeed. So that's a moot point, in my opinion.
Well,
when people say that,
I think, but I listed some names. I think, when you look at Elway, when you look at Marino, when you look at Luck, they came into bad situations and they won their first year. But for the majority, that's because we're transcendent, physical abilities, But it even mattered situationally for Peyton Manning.
Yeah.
So. I don't know. Situation matters, man. Situation matters big time.
So I'm not disputing that. I'm not saying it doesn't. I'm just saying,
but we're saying what you're saying is a moot point, though, and that's why. Let me say this, Ian.
But it really is. It really is when you think about it.
So let me dive into my football philosophy and why I see that the way I see it. Okay. because I actually see why you feel it's a mute point. But let me put you in my mind real quick to give you the full thought process of why I feel the way I feel, why it's not a mute point to me. Okay, so you got a guy, and you're 100% correct, by the way. The coach's job is to take away all those situations, right? But in today's NFL, now it's going to tie in from everything I've always said, bro. In today's NFL, you cannot look at a quarterback just on their rookie contract. We can sit there and say it's the coach's job to put everything around them, but the reality is if the coach does his job successfully in the first 4 years of a rookie's contract, he's going to have everything around him. He's going to look his best. Even if that sucks, he's going to look his best. But when the rubber meets the road and we got to give you this big money and we're taking away from the team, the responsibility is still on the coach, but you're getting this money with the understanding that you need to pick up even more of the load.
Well, yeah, I agree.
That's the situation of seeing a player in a non-perfect situation. So that you know that if we give you the big bucks, if we give Tannehill that first contract for $96 million, we know that he's going to carry this team after the fact. And that's false. Tannehill isn't that type of guy. He continuously needs greatness around him. I'm not even going to – Tennessee may not even be as great this year, honestly, because they lost Conklin and things like that.
They won't.
So, they may not, but these are the things. That's exactly why – it does matter. It's not a mute point for me because I'm not looking at I want my guy now and I want him to win a Super Bowl now like Mahomes. If you're the Chiefs, you want Mahomes to win out of the next 10 years, get us 3 to 4. So I'm not I don't want to look at the now. I want to bring in a quarterback where we're contending for a Super Bowl for the next 15 years with this guy when we know we're going to have to pay him. I mean, we're not going to get a Drew Brees recent deal from these young guys now. You're not getting – there isn't no Tom Brady's, even though they say some guys will. There aren't any. So that's why it matters to me that if you're in a – because Tannehill came into this league in a tough situation. But then he goes to a perfect situation and he looks like Brady. Better. Some would argue, at least in the regular season, right? So situation, like Reason said, definitely matters, and you agree with that, by the way, EM. So I
I agree with that, but
that's why. But we're all guessing in the college play. Burrow, we're guessing he could be a bum. He could be a bust. Tua, we're guessing this guy could be a bust. We can have our strong probabilities that it won't happen, but we're all guessing. So wouldn't you rather less to guess about? I've seen this guy in a tough situation, and I've seen him in a great situation.
Yeah. But
that's the only point. That's all I'm saying.
But I think in terms of Tua, he's passed that test with flying colors, in my estimation.
What tough situation has he ever been in?
What you talking about? The injuries that's not a tough situation, TD.
Stop, man. I'm talking about on the field with personnel, man.
That's what I'm telling you. Was that LSU game was not a perfect illustration of an adverse situation? That wasn't him out there on one leg.
Take away CeeDee Lamb and put Brian Hartline in college there.
Stop it, man. Stop it.
See, but I've already that accuracy plus, that analytic of accuracy plus throws into tight windows shows that it doesn't matter at the end of the day. It doesn't matter. The ball is going to be there. So
no matter who is running the route, bro. No matter who is.
Yes.
Again.
But when they ask you to do even more because the person running the route doesn't secure the catch.
TD, I don't get. Okay, the man is. If you're disregarding that, I'm just using that LSU game because LSU was the best team. Probably that's maybe even a top 5 team all time. From I'm talking about in terms of starters and from
their defense. Their defense is disgusting.
And from a depth standpoint, we saw what that team did to every other top quarterback prospect that's available.
Hey.
And healthy now. Hang on. Healthy. But Tua is out there on literally 2 weeks off of ankle surgery, bro. Literally hobbling on one leg, and the dude carves that defense up like that.
And
come on, man.
And the big takeaway to me, Derek Stingley, by far the best corner in the nation.
It's crazy, bro.
And
it's crazy.
The guy has he allows a passer rating of like under 40, and Tua has against him had like a passer rating of like 121 or something like that when he targeted him. And translatable throws, he was beating Stingley outside the numbers. He wasn't just taking easy throws. So
any
that's
metric,
crazy when you break it down.
Any possible metric that you can grade, okay, a quarterback on, okay, that when you're grading Tua Tagovailoa, he exceeds by far. He's so ahead of the curve than everybody else that's available, bro.
But a perfect situation gives him remarkable grades.
No. Okay, well then why aren't you? I just don't get why you're not banging the table for Joe Burrow. I don't get that.
I mean, he was that receiving core combined finished with more yards than the Alabama receiving core, and when their game happened, whatever week it was, I think was it week 8 or week 7 or whatever. But at that point, and by the end of the season, his receiving core, Burrow's receiving core, finished with more yak, which is crazy.
No. And let me be clear here. Let me be clear. Joe Burrow, that's a perfect situation because that team had no weaknesses at all. Okay, Trevor Lawrence the year before, that's a perfect situation.
That defense, Trevor Lawrence had
the team had no weaknesses.
That was one of the best defensive lines ever.
We're arguing teams that are 1A and 1B and 1C. You know, like the rosters and talent.
Exactly, bro. So all I'm saying is for people that are trying to make this argument about as a negative, to put Tua in a negative light, he hadn't had a perfect situation. He's not.
Bro, stop. The man had a perfect situation. I'm talking about offense. The only thing I'm grading is offense. I mean, and then on top of it, let's just be honest, man. We look at Tua Tagovailoa's numbers and stats. How many times? I mean, we've watched live games where his defense have given him the ball on the 20-yard line 3 times in the same game. They start him in the red zone in situations. So, and Burrow, the same thing. All I'm saying is, I want to see him. I mean, I guess it's a moot point because we won't see him until he enters the NFL and this situation arises.
I tried to tell you in your comments today. Video did leak of him dropping back and throwing. Him and his brother were dropping back and throwing out routes. So, people are saying that it's a portion of a film that is sending to teams.
As long as I don't see no edited clips, man.
Hey, all I'm saying is I don't hear the banging of the table in terms of criticism of Joe Burrow, Trevor Lawrence. Those are perfect scenarios. Alabama has weaknesses, bro.
Let me be clear. Let me help.
Yeah, especially defensively.
Alabama has weaknesses, bro.
Especially defensively.
They have weaknesses, bro.
Let me be clear though, EM, because I want to make sure people are not losing us in translation here. I want to make sure people understand my sentiments on what EM is saying. He's 1,000% correct. We got the same questions for all these guys. They had galore. We have the same questions for all these guys. Okay? But when we talk about Tua, I say we have those questions. If we want to talk about Burrow, we have those questions. Yep. But the only difference between the two is I was able to see Burrow execute the full display of his game. Well, Tua, if you tell me he goes through progressions really well and X, Y, and Z, I'll believe you. But what I'm saying is I saw more of it from Burrow.
Well,
I saw more of him processing it all and making much better decisions this year when healthy.
How big is your sample size though?
Yeah. And also
the entire season. Matter of fact,
so you watched every I've watched every Tua.
Yeah. Joe Burrow, I've seen. Put it like I'll probably watch 80% of his games this season.
Well, TD, all I'm saying is do your due diligence and do your due diligence and do the same for Tua.
Well, here's the difference. Here's the difference here.
I want you to go look up 80% of Tua's film with a larger sample size.
Bro, bro, I don't know what point you're trying to make with that. I know what Tua is.
No. My point will be you will have a different. This is what not just you, but anybody. If you actually went and watched his film over the last 2 years, okay, and have a understanding of how his game will be able to translate immediately to the next level, you will have a different outlook on you will have a different perspective on him on Miami possibly.
And I'm just saying the first thing that should stand out to you when you watch to a film, just to anyone, his eyes are one of his elitist traits and one of the most translatable things to the next level. He is damn near a master at manipulating safeties and corners with his eyes. And there's tons of examples of film I have. So
we have a difference in opinion on that because again, one knock that I always had on Tua was this, and we can disagree, but I'm just giving my opinion. One knock that I did have on Tua was this. We talk about he's the master of manipulating eyes. But whenever I watch him throw the deep go route or whatever, and what some call is manipulation of the eyes, I see it totally different. It wasn't, my job is to look right and look left, and if it's open, go there. That's manipulation of the eyes in some cases. It can be in different forms and different ways. But I saw things different, and we have a millisecond difference on what we saw in those cases. Some of y'all saw him looking the safety off to the right in some cases, and then coming back, seeing the guy open in the right, clear as day because the safety got looked off. Well, I see a guy who looks right and turns left and let it go, regardless if the receiver's open or not. So we say that's manipulation of the eyes. I say a guy who was going to go there no matter what, he's just doing his mechanical job to look right first.
That's anticipation. That's called anticipation.
No. Don't be talking about anticipation because no. Stop that anticipation stuff.
Hang on. That's called throwing your receiver open.
No. Because
open. TD.
Bro.
Think about what you just said. Okay?
First of all, okay, hold on.
You're missing what I'm saying, Liam. You're missing.
I got the point. Hold on a sec. First of all, anticipation is knowing where your guy's gonna be, and even without separation, throwing it there so he's there once he separates. That's anticipation.
Exactly.
No, that's not. You're missing the key point to it. You're missing the key point to anticipation.
I played the position.
Listen first before you go to that conclusion. The part that you're missing about anticipation, everything you said was 100% correct. But the part you're missing about anticipation is being aware of where the defense is. If the cornerback on that same
I wasn't done. You interrupted me like right in the middle of my point.
You said that was anticipation, then you start going on to the opposite.
Because that is anticipation. Manipulation has nothing to do with anticipation, bro.
Oh my God.
Right, exactly.
They're on different levels, bro.
I agree, it doesn't.
Hold on a sec. His most famous play ever, arguably, is the touchdown pass to Devontae Smith against Georgia in the national championship. Bro, you can even listen to him talk about the play, and he talks about how he played the safety with his eyes to come up, and as soon as he came up, he launched it.
Exactly, TD.
He even broke the play down himself, man.
Now will you let me hear me out before you just think that yours is the cookie cutter? That's what it is? Go ahead. You mean to tell me if I'm the cornerback out there, forget the safety. If I'm the cornerback and my assignment based off of the defensive call we play, because I got a linebacker that's about to take the underneath, my job is just to bail. My job is just to play it over the top. I'm not playing man-to-man. I ain't doing this and that. My job is to play over the top. So you mean to tell me that same play would have been as successful if the cornerback's job was to play over the top? No, it might have been intercepted, and he was going to throw it no matter what. That's the point that I'm making. You have to know. Hold on, I'm not done. Y'all wanted me to be quiet. We always talking. You have to be able, when you look that safety off, in a split second, look to the left and make sure that corner ain't bail either. Tua's going to throw it regardless.
You don't know that.
Okay, wait.
He's not even looking at it, bro. He's looking right. The safety's coming down and on his way back to the other side. He's in motion. Y'all know that. Go look at the film. Get your behind in the field.
Bro, he's talking about the bad play, bro. He's talking about it. He's literally broken it down. So who am I gonna take? The quarterback that threw it and broke the play down and experienced it, or some guy on YouTube giving his opinion on the play? I'm gonna take the quarterback who did it.
You can take the quarterback's opinion all you want as long as it works.
You can watch it. You can watch the film. You can watch it.
If the cornerback, then why does he? Look at the picks that he throw on the slant. Didn't even care about the defense. Anticipating, just throwing it to his guy.
First off, so we're clear.
That's his problem.
Hold on a sec. Hold on a sec. No. Bro. Hold on. He threw one interception under 10 yards this year. So what slants are he throwing his mad interception?
All I'm saying to you, Reason, is this is why I go with the perfect situation. He's not going to have many cases where he's going to throw picks because his guys are usually wide the freak open.
Stop, man.
What I'm saying to you is in the very few turnovers that this man had, they are so unexplainable, and y'all know that to be a fact.
He had 3 interceptions all year. This is hilarious. He's had 11 interceptions in 2.5 years.
Interceptions. Why don't you tell the people what you think about those 3 interceptions? Were they even explainable? Is it a case of, oh, well, he let it flow, or, oh, he got hit while he was doing it? No, they were just straight up, threw the ball, didn't care what coverage was.
TD, nobody said, first off, TD.
Am I wrong? Yes or no? The 3 interceptions he has, was it careful? Answer me that.
TD,
be honest with the people.
Hang on, TD, hang on. Nobody ever sat up here and said Tua is a perfect prospect. Every quarterback needs refinement. You can go back. I'm sure you can pull up tape on Joe Burrow's interceptions, and you can say, damn, that's
what have I told you? What have I told you about the tape on Burrow? What have I told you about the tape on Burrow? Here's the difference between Tua and Burrow. You want to talk about slants? Here's your difference. And this is from a guy who doesn't just watch the games, who goes back and watches the offensive snaps alone, okay? Especially when it comes to quarterback. You got a guy who, Burrow. This is the difference between Tua and Burrow. If you just want to go off slants. With Burrow, it's going to be dime behind the guy. Dime in front of the guy, down, miss. Dime, misses him again. With Tua, it's going to be dime, pick. And then it's going to be dime for the rest of the year. He had 139 passer rating from 0 to 10 yards. He only missed 20 passes all season out of 79. From 10 to 19 yards, he had 132 passer rating, only missed 19. And from 20 plus yards, he only missed 20 throws and had 134 passer rating. So,
who played the better game against each other? Who played the better game against each other without injury?
Stop, TD. Stop.
I'm just curious.
I'm agreeing with TD.
Who was throwing the dimes on the field and who was behind?
Two exceeded his yards.
Not in that fourth quarter. Not in that fourth quarter.
Not in that fourth quarter. It's always the fourth quarter.
TD, didn't Tua exceed his yardage total in that game?
Hey, how about I respond to Reason with that? What you're gonna get in Burrow is first quarter, second quarter, third quarter, fourth quarter, first quarter, second quarter, third quarter, fourth quarter. What you gonna get in Tua is first quarter, fourth quarter, second quarter, fourth quarter, second quarter, third quarter, a little bit of the fourth.
Man,
based off one game against LSU. You're basing off one game. Oh, what's the other game? The Clemson game? Because that's all I've ever heard is LSU and Clemson game. I've never heard you talk about them play or Georgia, Auburn, any other team. I always hear the LSU and Clemson games.
Biggest game.
And again.
Georgia was a big game. How'd that work out?
Biggest games, right? Who's had more big games?
TD, listen. TD, y'all are using two of arguably top greatest and top 5 of all-time teams that you're using to grade him. And in my opinion, he did make mistakes in those games, but I think he played extremely well. I think, in my opinion. against two of arguably the greatest college football teams in the history of the NCAA. Man, stop it. It's ridiculous.
I don't think that Clemson defense, that defensive
Tua
line alone is one of the best
back-to-back
defensive
years.
lines that's in college. Before they got rid of Wilkins,
Years,
before
bro.
everyone left, before Wilkins left, that Clemson line was disgusting. But anyways, that Georgia team he beat was disgusting too.
Exactly, bro.
So I mean, I
Exactly.
don't know, bro. I mean, he lit them
Like
up.
I said, like TD and people are saying that Tua clearly Alabama was an inferior overall team than Clemson as well as LSU.
Buddy.
And in my opinion, it's the reason Tua, if they didn't have Tua, they would have got ran off the damn field.
Buddy, all I gotta say is 10.9 yards per average against the blitz, and almost a 65 completion percentage against blitzes. He carves up blitzes too, man. Like
It's
I don't
ridiculous.
understand. And there's a perfect example I can use. I forget what game it was, but I was watching Herbert tape again yesterday, and he made a throw and the line. I believe it was zone, and the corner was hanging, so you had to touch it. You had to touch it in between the corner and the safety high, and what does Herbert do? He just locks in on the guy the whole way, so the corner makes a play on it and almost picks it. Whereas when you watch Tua make a play like that, he's going to try and draw that corner up off, so he has a little bit more room to fit it, and he probably would fit it in there anyways. But even if he couldn't fit it in there, he would look it off. And that's what I'm saying. There are so many games where I can bring up where you watch him go through his progressions. That's one of the things they worked on this year with his new offensive coordinator. That was one of the things they focused on this year, was we're going to get him better at working through all his progressions. And you saw it a lot this year.
Listen, I'm not going to say that Tua didn't just throw it up, because we don't know that for sure. We ain't into a head. We don't know which plays he just threw it up.
And see, that's my whole point about what TD said. That's ridiculous. You mean to tell me you can read that man's mind?
It's a fact. I can see a Tua coming into this league, and just like you do Josh Rosen, I can see Tua coming in this league with his anticipation, throwing picks, and then I'm sitting there like this was a concern in college. No, it wasn't. Well, he's doing it now. I can see it happening.
But Tua's got like near elite anticipation. No one's ever said that about Rosen.
He exactly.
Of course, I'm not comparing those two. I'm just saying, just like you say about Rosen.
And Tua is elite in every other aspect of his game.
Every other.
Not an arm strength. He doesn't have elite arm. He doesn't have elite arm strength.
Excuse me.
Without the injury, Tua is better than every other quarterback in this class, in this draft class, without the injury.
Yeah,
we assume he is.
That's what I'm saying. See, that's what I keep. That's why I get so frustrated.
When you come to the line of scrimmage, you gotta realize when you come to the line of scrimmage, you know your receivers. You throw to them every game, and you throw to them in practice. You know your receiver. So if I come to the line of scrimmage and I see this corner over here, and I say, "Oh yeah, my guy could beat him," in my head, I'm already thinking about throwing it to him before I even say height, because I feel like my guy could beat him already. So some plays Tua might have just threw it up just because he felt like, hey, this guy can beat him. So
these ain't no throw ups. These ain't no throw ups like. See what we talk about here. These ain't no throw ups like they're press man. I mean they're press coverage, and I'm gonna throw it up for him to beat. I'm talking about if literally corner 10 yards off and you're going to throw it up on a go route, just throw it up. You got to evaluate that situation.
Oh my God. What do you see the line of scrimmage? Oh my God.
You come to the line of scrimmage.
Where are these examples? I've never seen this, and I've watched them.
I've never seen that either, bro.
I've never seen this. I've watched
it. I agree with you, J.
Show me an example.
No, you got to find me an example.
Are we really saying that an elite quarterback is looking at his Antonio Brown against, I mean, give me any sorry corner and literally saying I'm going to throw this no matter what. They're just going to look there first and say that's my read. Oh wow, the corner closed it nicely. You got to be able to do that in a split second. Like this is
show me the tape.
You can just throw it anyway, and that's why he does have. That's what he did. In this NFL, against these zones, you ain't gonna be able to do that mess.
Wait, listen. I'm not going
Please
to agree with that one. I'm not going to agree with
It's
that.
actually easy to carve up zones if you know where the holes are.
Because
Exactly.
Fitzpatrick did that all this year. Fitzpatrick did that all this year with Devontae Parker. If you realize, Fitzpatrick threw it up to Devontae Parker a lot, and some of them plays Devontae Parker was covered. He just threw it up because he knew Devontae Parker could catch it.
He's a high point catcher. That's why he threw that. It's a different circumstance.
Yes. If you evaluate the situation one-on-one that way, but again, this man without even see, you saying he threw it up to Devontae Parker, but if he don't see on his blind side a safety also coming on the double team, that don't matter to y'all. See, that's all I'm saying is recognizing what's on the other side before you throw it. Split-second thing and not just throw it.
TD, here's my issue.
Went to Devontae Parker, right? He saw Devontae Parker cover, but he felt like that's my guy. He gonna win this battle. But he at least saw it. That's my argument.
TD, listen, this is my issue with what you're
letting it go.
TD, here's my issue. TD, here's my issue with this buffoonish point that you're trying to make here. Okay, you can pull up tape on Tom Brady, on Peyton Manning, on every great quarterback. They make mistakes, bro. They make mistakes.
How about you pull up that kind of mistake from Tom Brady?
Look at the throw he threw to Eric Rowe when we played him in Foxborough.
Bro, ain't nobody in their mama will sit there and tell you that's the same thing that applies. Tom Brady when they're playing didn't even care.
Listen, hang on, listen. First off, I want you to go get the visual evidence and show me what that scenario play in any. Go get some tape of that scenario of Alabama playing into a committed of a buffoonish mistake like that. That's number one. Number two, if you go back frame by frame and you slow down that game of when we played New England in Foxborough, that was Brady had the check down. If you go back and look at the scenario, Brady had two receivers, okay? He had the check down sitting there wide open. That's the correct play to make in that particular situation. Brady opted to get off his. That's where the play was designed to where the play was designed. That's where the ball should have went. He opted to get off his check down and throw it and try to make a play to whoever the receiver was, and Eric Rowe stepped right in front of it.
Bro,
and he got a pick six. That was again, TD. Hang on.
Eric Rowe. He looked over at Eric Rowe and literally saw the man and threw it. Brady was frustrated. Nobody was open down the field.
Whatever. It's a mistake. Who gave a damn?
Bro, we know people make mistakes. You're missing my argument here. See, this is what a lot of people. This is what a lot of people like to do. This is what a lot of people like to do. I'm sorry. I don't live my life this way. This is what people try to do. They try to sit there and say, bro, that's rare. This is the NFL. Great defensive coordinator's job is to put you in those rare situations that you didn't even handle well. Just because this is a rare situation, see, I go study TUA. Y'all feel y'all the experts on TUA, all this and that. We see two different things. It don't mean I ain't studied the guy. So when I see that this doesn't happen to him often, out of 100 dropbacks, this might happen once. But every time it happens, I notice this one thing. But then y'all come on here, you're talking about a rare situation. In the NFL, a defensive coordinator's job is to study you, and if they find that rare situation, it is their job to put you in it every chance they get.
Expose
So then when they put you in it, and those numbers start going up for mistakes, y'all asking me to ignore that. I'm sorry. My mind just goes a little further, and maybe it's unnecessary, but that's just who I am. I look at the game in so many different ways. So if I evaluate it and break it down that deep, I'm sorry you ain't thinking about it. But I'm thinking about if I was a defensive coordinator playing against TUA, I'm going to study that film. I don't care if it's a rare situation where I know you got to look at if he's that good. He ain't got many situations where he makes mistakes, obviously. But I'm going to look at all that film and say, why would he do that? Can I find that again? No, I'm not finding it, man. I've been watching for a long time. I'm not finding that scenario. Oh, there go the scenario again. Oh, he did it again. I'm going to start noticing that. And then whenever I notice that, I'm going to say, hey, let's put him in these situations. Let's go ahead. If he looks right, I want you to bail safety. I want you to come downhill. But corner, make sure y'all check and you know that you're bailing. You're playing the over-the-top route because that's what he loves to do. Don't get out jumped. Go get that pick or bat that ball down. Y'all act like I can't do that. I can't criticize his. The guy is a great football player. I don't know if he's the greatest college player of all time, like y'all called him. I've
never once called him.
He's the best of
no.
All.
What I said is legitimate quarterbacks who have played the game have gone out and called him one of the most prolific college quarterbacks. I said
EM just said that. He literally
he's not the greatest. He's not the greatest ever. That's
So regardless of how we revere him, am I not allowed to literally look? I don't care how great you are. You're supposed to, if you're that great, the only thing you can do is nitpick to find a weakness. It's my job to do that so I'll know what the kid needs to either work on or how we can expose him if we have to play against him. And all I'm doing is pointing those things out. But that's a problem. We got to treat him like the Messiah and put him on a pedestal, and you are not allowed to say one thing negative about him, and now you're nitpicking. What else are you going to do to a guy like this? If you're in that front office and you're not nitpicking the way that I am, then you don't belong in a front office. So all those in the comment section and disagree with that segment of it, we just have a different football philosophy. I don't have to sit here and feel like I don't feel you're stupid because you don't see it the way I see it. I don't feel like I'm losing an argument because I don't see it the way you see it. Your perspective is your perspective. I respect it, and I'm talking against it for dialogue. That's all it is. So at the end of the day, I'm sorry. Tua Tagovailoa has areas that when I study his game, and like y'all said, no one's perfect, TD.
Exactly. Nobody's perfect.
So just because they're not perfect, I can't talk about the things that I see. Now, again, we can still talk about what I see, whether it's right or wrong. That's fine. But at the end of the day, don't knock me for giving you my thoughts on what I see when I study tape. You may see it differently, and I'm always interested.
Hey, I'm not knocking you. What I'm saying is show me these go routes where he just throws it up because I've never seen that, and I've watched every snap of them. That's all I'm saying.
That's all I'm saying.
My thing is, remember I said that these are rare situations. See, this is what y'all see. Y'all see him looking the safety off to the right. And then when he's coming back left and he's throwing it, y'all feel like, no, he looked left and he surveyed it and said, yeah, this is good. I just disagree. I see him looking right. And when the safety's pulling, he's already loading. And he's letting almost at the end of the let go. That ball's going no matter what. He can look and say, oh my God, it's gone anyway. And that's what I see.
But I'm already telling you, he's talked about that play and specifically broke that play down.
That's fine.
And he's talked about how he noticed earlier in the game that the safety was watching his eyes. So when that play got called, he talked about that. When that play got called, he knew he had the safety with his eyes. So that's why he looked to the right, because he thought because the safety probably thought he was going to lock in. And then the safety bit on it. And as soon as he saw him take 2 steps, it was gone. Like it was like a step and a half and gone. Like he just waited for that step and a half and boom, then he delivered it. Because so like, and you know what? If you want to knock his arm strength, if you want to knock his lack of fourth quarter play, if you want to knock around, there are times where he gets panicky when when you can tell the play is a first read play. Like that one we broke down so many months ago where the slot guy picked when he went to pick the corner and then the slant came across. There are times where when that first read isn't there in the first read specific play where he does get panicky. I've seen it where he gets panicky and then he'll throw when the first read is not there.
Like any quarterback. Like any great quarterback.
Okay, and one of the things that, I would talk about Jalen Hurts, he always drifts from clean pockets. Well, there are times you can identify on tape where Tua, he not only drifts from a clean pocket, but he brings pressure upon himself instead of just standing firm in the pocket. So there are things I see that need to be worked on with him. And like I never have once said he's a perfect prospect. I've just given multiple examples, and obviously the durability, throw that in there. So I've given 4 or 5 examples of things that I look at as cons. So
TD, I never said
identify
that.
it. I identify it,
man. Let me correct you, TD. Stop putting words in my mouth. I never said that he was a perfect prospect. I never said I never said that.
You said greatest college player of all time.
No, I never said that, bro.
I appreciate you saying you never sold it. Don't worry. I'll make a 13-second clip just putting it out just because EM say he never said this, and I'll just put it out. Don't worry. It's on here.
I never said he was the greatest college player of all time. I never said that, bro.
You were arguing. You're talking about the greatest college player of all. That's exactly what you said.
Stop it, man. Stop it, bro.
Right. Okay.
Stop it, man. Listen. I never said he was every player, TD, needs refinement. Everyone. You know what I mean? Nobody said it's perfect. He clearly, just like we sit and watch and we document his skill set in a positive light. There is stuff on tape, just like Reason just alluded to, that there are negatives that you can document. But that all I'm saying is you act like he cannot. My issue with you is how passionate you are in the criticism of Tua. You act like he can't correct those issues once it gets to the next level.
That's all I'm doing is pointing out concerns.
I am not saying that you literally said that. I'm saying you're acting like that. How you criticize him, again, you can pull up tape on Joe Burrow and you'll see inexplicable mistakes. You're like, damn, why would he make us? Why would he go?
I've talked about this. It throws outside the numbers. His intermediate throws outside. Okay. And what's crazy is his intermediate throws outside the numbers. When you break down his level, the 3 levels, the intermediate, I think he finished with 6 interceptions this year. 4 of those 6 came on the intermediate level.
So let's make sure.
You can pull up. All I'm saying is, banging the table. All I'm saying is, distribute. Hang on. Distribute that criticism, that passion. Distribute that evenly amongst everybody. Don't just single Tua out.
No, that's not fair, bro. That's not fair.
What do you mean? What do you mean?
Why? Well, when someone says it's not fair, and you're like, "What do you mean?" Well, I'm about to tell you. Okay, listen. You said I need to distribute that same energy. Why do we always, when we start arguing, we lose context of the actual conversation that was started in the first place?
How was it
we
lost?
Lose context. So this, What was that?
How was it lost? Who lost context?
I'm gonna show you. I'm gonna show you where it was lost. We started this conversation talking about why I would take Burrow at this point. We started it by saying the difference that me and you have, EM, is that I would move heaven and earth for Burrow if the organization said that's the guy. I just disagree with you that I would move heaven and earth for Tua because he has that unknown in the injury. That's where the conversation started. Hold on. Let me finish.
That's not accurate.
Let me finish telling you where it was lost. That's exactly where it is. Hold on, bro. Let me tell you my side. Then you have the floor, all you want.
Okay.
That's where the conversation started. Then we start talking about, but I would do this because Tua, I personally believe Tua is the guy. Now, don't get me wrong. And we all admitted that, Burrow, we wouldn't be mad. But then we start talking about, but Tua, a guy like that who don't have the same issues. They played against the same competition. And I jumped in and said, hey, now, he got issues too, in my opinion. We were talking about Tua.
Who disputed that?
Because you're telling me to use the same energy on Burrow when the conversation was about which one you would take. And then we went into you saying, and this guy doesn't have those kind of issues. I said, hold on, he got issues. What I saw, and we can disagree, I said that. I said what I saw.
Wait.
Why do I have to go back? Why do I have to go back and say Burrow got these issues and that issues? I was only rebuttaling what you said, as in the guy. I mean, this guy barely has those type of issues, and I said, now he has issues. That's all that was. That's all this conversation was.
Again, TD. Again.
Energy. We already know about Joe Burrow.
Listen.
Slant, miss, behind. All that stuff. We understand that.
Listen. Okay. You're entitled to your own opinion. I'm not knocking you for your own opinion. However, when you're basing your opinion off if you're comparing skill sets, if you're comparing their games, this is where I'm telling you you're off base. That's why I'm telling you you need to get back in the film room and distribute that 80%. Like you said, you watched 80% of Joe Burrow's film. Okay,
You have to
you need to
elaborate.
be. Hang on.
You
Be
gotta elaborate.
consistent.
How am I off base?
Hang on. This is what I'm telling you. If you're comparing games and skill sets, you're wrong. You're off base because your initial criticism of Tua has always been your initial criticism. You change it up during a year, but your initial criticism when the panel first started, because I'm the first one to bring this topic up about Tua Tagovailoa. Okay.
First read.
Hang on. You were initially criticizing his game overall. That was you. That's where your disdain started. Okay.
Say over the course of the year, I couldn't hear you. Say it one more time.
I'm talking. Your initial criticism of Tua started with his game from a skill set standpoint. That's where your initial criticism started from.
What are you talking about?
Hey, hang on. Can I finish? You don't let me finish or what?
First read. That's
is that not part of him? Is that not part of his game, TD?
Yeah, but
that's not part of his game.
No. But when you drive that narrative, let's be specific.
Is that not part of
TD's assessment was first read, everything around him. Has that changed?
Is that not part of his game, TD?
Has it changed?
Can you answer my question? Is that not part of his skill set?
It's a part of his game. So when you say that, you got to tell the people you had a criticism about a part of his game, not his game. That's the difference. That makes a difference.
First off, you didn't let me finish. You keep interrupting me. You didn't let me finish my point, bro.
First read, man.
Okay, so that's part of his skill set. Okay, that was your initial criticism. Okay, and this is what I'm telling you. You're up now. If you want to criticize Tua from a standpoint of health with his hip, that's valid. That's legitimate. But if you're talking about, this is why I'm saying about your initial criticism about Tua being a product of what was around him. You're not distributing that criticism to Joe Burrow and all these other prospects is what I'm saying. So you need to be, okay? You need to distribute that same energy evenly amongst Joe, in particular Joe Burrow as well, because of your initial criticism is what I'm saying. That's all I'm saying.
All right. So I'll just respond to that real quick. My initial criticism, has it changed? Yes or no?
Yeah. Yes, it has. Now you haven't. Now you haven't 100%. You haven't said, well, you haven't expressed that verbally, but it has indirectly. You have switched that. Now it's primarily health.
Now I haven't discussed it verbally, but yes, it
hang on. Now it's primarily health. I don't hear you talking about initial read and any other aspects about his game. I don't hear that as much.
I automatically feel like the concerns that I do have, that's what we have to work on fixing. That's why I don't talk about them anymore. We know what we know now. At this point, if we draft Tua Tagovailoa, I feel like we have to make sure we don't put him in situations where he's exposed on the things that I'm concerned about. That's why
that's obvious. That's obvious, TD. That's any coach. That's any situation, bro.
Okay, so that's why I don't talk about it, because it's obvious.
But again, just why aren't you banging the table for Joe Burrow in that regard? That's all I'm
saying.
First
of all, I don't even talk about Joe Burrow. I've only talked about Joe Burrow the last 2 days.
We talked about Joe Burrow all year. All year we
talked about Joe Burrow. That was when they had a matchup. That's when all of those times. I haven't been on here streaming about. How about this? Well, anybody who wants to know, that way we don't have to keep arguing about it. You can go to TDPHINSTALK right now, and at the top of the search, type in TDPHINSTALK Tua Tagovailoa. You'll probably see about 50 streams. Type in TDPHINSTALK and Joe Burrow. You might see 4 or 5 at max.
Do you recall when?
Go look at the dates. You'll see.
Hang on.
Since they played.
TD, do you have a record? Do you recall when the LSU team took off? Joe Burrow took off earlier in the year, and everybody hopped on that train. And what was I telling everybody when they were saying, "Oh, after 4 or 5 games, he's better than Tua"? What was my response? Y'all didn't know who the hell Joe Burrow was before these 2 or 3 games. Do you recall that?
I recall it like the back of my hand because I remember what I replied to that. Do you remember, Tim?
We were talking about Joe Burrow from the beginning of the season, bro. So stop it. Stop it.
Bro, I wasn't talking about Joe Burrow.
You were too. You as well. It's your panel, right?
All right. Once again, I guess this doesn't even. I guess this isn't even relevant because just because you bring up Joe Burrow and I make a comment on what you say doesn't.
No, stop it. No, is it not your show? Is it not your panel?
Bro, I talk about Jordan Love. I talk about Tua Tagovailoa
No, you didn't.
because I know that those guys were serious threats. I know that those guys were serious threats.
Joe Burrow at the beginning of the year.
All right, so at the end of the day, ladies and gentlemen, for the record, I talk about Tua Tagovailoa because I've always known he's a real threat to be with the Miami Dolphins. I talk about
this guy calls him a threat.
A real threat.
How you gonna call him a threat, bro?
No, that's how I feel about it. Nothing's wrong with that. At least I'm giving you my thought process and being honest.
Bro,
he's a real threat.
This isn't a guy with a gun. This isn't a guy with a gun and a knife ready to stick you up on the street, bro. It's a 22-year-old quarterback from Alabama, bro. Come on.
That has a hip injury that if he goes down in the NFL, oh my gosh, that threat was imminent and it hit us. So he's a threat to be in this league for the Miami Dolphins to be. But Jordan Love, I talk about Jordan Love because I see his upside. I never really followed Jordan Love. I wasn't a huge fan. And then a little birdie in my ear told me we're very high on Jordan Love. So,
but I was following. Hey, who was preaching him on the stream
all the time?
I was as well. Remember that? If you
I agree. You were EM because I'm trying to establish the difference with this. Me talking about Burrow all the time. I talked about Tua. I talked about Tua more than anyone because he's the biggest threat.
I'm not disputing that.
I talked about Jordan Love. I talked about Jordan Love, not even a lot, but on occasions I talk about Jordan Love based off of information that I've been given. And then on occasions I probably don't talk about Herbert or.
Yeah, I was just gonna say I never hear you talk about. I never hear you talk about Herbert.
Yeah,
Burrow.
Joe Burrow would be next because he comes up. He's the number one pick. I explore the possibility. And then Herbert, I rarely talk about Herbert, and I was actually going to do a stream today. And it be Dolphins what they think about Herbert because we never talk about it.
TD, we have talked about Joe Burrow, all year because y'all have been trying to draw that comparison and between him and Tua all year long, bro. All year long. At the start of before November 9th was even. Before November 9th came along, we were talking about y'all were hyping up the potential matchup between Alabama and LSU because I'm the one that said if I was Tua, I would sit out. I would sit out the rest of the year.
Yeah,
y'all were hyping up.
How right you were by the end of that year.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Y'all were building up the potential matchup between LSU and Alabama all year long. EM is
correct, ladies and gentlemen. Let me help you. EM is correct in that regard. It's about 4 weeks before Alabama played LSU. That was a big topic of conversation because a lot of people start arguing in the comment section on who would you rather have, Joe Burrow or Tua Tagovailoa.
That's my point.
And I'll try to find. Hold on. We talked about it. Of course, we talked about it because it came up.
Well, you said you said we did. You said you didn't. That's my point. You said you didn't. You said you didn't. That's what you just said about 5 minutes ago.
Reason, you want to help him real quick because I think Reason may see. I don't know what you talk about when I say that we didn't. I said I never made Burrow.
No, what he's saying. So what TD's basically saying is that he's talked about Burrow, but he's made like legitimate streams and videos dedicated to the Tua situation. That's all.
I haven't pushed this narrative that Burrow's better, and let me go live and tell you.
But I never said that, TD.
What's funny is
I'm sorry, I must have misinterpreted what you said. I never said that.
That's
obvious.
What's funny? Can I just say this though? What's funny is when you actually let's take a basic look at these two. When you actually take a step back and look at them, take the hip injury out of the way. Basically, you've got and there's like when you take just the basic, the bones of the situation, you got two guys that are sneakily athletic, right? Who don't have strong arms, who depend on anticipation, ball placement, and good decision making, and good repeatable mechanics to put the ball where it needs to be in any type of window. That's basically what you have. The only difference is like I said, with the slants and the intermediate throws in the outside. I will call Joe Burrow really accurate, but I will call Tua pinpoint accurate. That's the only difference when you like basically look at them.
And out of that comparison that Reason gave, I would give Tua Tagovailoa the edge. I would go with Tua Tagovailoa. But again, my biggest thing is that hip.
I disagree with the narrative that Tua. I disagree that the narrative that Tua's arm is not, is a notch below elite. I think people are shortchanging his arm strength.
Well, you can. The thing is when he throw. Okay, there's the thing is, and it doesn't happen all the time. But where that conversation comes in is on his deep throws. You will notice an arc here and there, and that arc comes from the arm strength.
Go ahead, bro. Go ahead.
He's got above average to good. He's got above average to good arm strength. And the thing is, we talked about this. Look, if you're gonna take levels, okay, let's go average, above average, good, and elite. Okay, here's where they are. Burrow is good, the bottom half of good, just above average, whereas Tua is like midway into good. Like, so they're not that far off in terms of arm strength. When you actually break it down, they're nowhere near Jacob Eason or Justin Herbert. So these are guys who they don't have strong arms, but they have great mechanics that are easily repeatable, and they got great anticipation. They're really good decision makers, and they can place the ball wherever they want. So that's we were talking about this earlier, TD, me and EM. That's why I think Burrow, and even though I think Burrow is closer to receiving, that's why I think eventually Burrow and Tua, if they stay healthy, they stay in the course, they get in decent situations, I see longer careers from them than I do from a guy like Justin Herbert, because of how good their mechanics already are before they're entering the NFL. So,
but you don't think Herbert can shed those bad habits? And
no, because what I think is going to happen is Herbert, for example, he's got, we're talking about like a guy who gets flat-footed a lot. We got a guy who, I've talked about this all the time. His eyes are bad. They shifty right to left. His head goes that way sometimes. And I always talk about this. You hear this a lot. The front arm is always swimming with him. It's not tucked in tight, repeatable. And you can fix those, but here's the problem, EM. You fix those, you work on them in an off season or whatever. What's a person, let alone a quarterback's natural tendency when pressure and things start going wrong is you revert back to what you know and what's been written. So you have to literally, you not only have to break habits, you got to basically brainwash out of the habits, some of those habits, because he's not a 2-year starter. We're talking about a 4-year senior. So it's deeper than just a guy coming out in his after his junior season. So it's been done for sure. But here's what I think. Okay. I think the problem with Herbert is going to be he's going to end up in a situation with like Josh Allen, where you're going to go to a good situation. Like, let's say he goes to the Chargers. If he goes to the Chargers, they're going to start him day one. And what happened with Josh Allen when they started him day one? They haven't taken the time to get out the fundamental flaws he had in his game, to work on his mechanics and get his accuracy down, because they're like, with how athletic you are and how strong your arm is, we can win. And I said when they got Stephon Diggs, that's why they went and got a guy like Stephon Diggs, because he's going to create open space where he doesn't got to throw into tight windows. He doesn't have to make read, and he doesn't have to have great touch, like these other guys have. Exactly. So that's what I see happening with, if he goes to the Chargers, you're going to have Josh Allen 2.0. I'll tell you right now.
But look, at the end of the day, I'm not going to sit here. Well, this is where we part. We've talked about this, reason. Here's where we part ways as far as Herbert is concerned. And I think it just boils down to the individual player. Okay. If Herbert comes in, okay, if we know his flaws, if we see his flaws on tape, you have to, we all know that people that get paid to do this and break down and evaluate players' skill sets, they know that. So if Herbert, I'm just saying, I just don't want to, and I'm not saying you per se, Reason. I'm just saying when you're evaluating everybody else besides Tua and Joe Burrow, like in particular, Jordan Love and Justin Herbert, I just don't want fans to just, okay, we see from a technique standpoint the level that Tua is on and the level that Joe Burrow is on. I just don't want Dolphin fans that if we wind up selecting one of these other two raw prospects, just
Love
don't,
Herbert?
Love or Herbert, do not put that in your mind that they can't, those issues can't be corrected.
And they shouldn't, because again, I said situation, right? We have Fitzpatrick who they can learn from in the room and on the field, but also we are in a position where we can sit the guy. That's why I use the Chargers as an example. It looks like they're up TD's alley right now. They're about to add the quarterback like a cherry on top. You know, they went out, they got offensive line help.
The agency was that successful.
Exactly.
Because again, and also, I've been telling y'all all year, bro, about about the structure that was implemented in Ryan Fitzpatrick's game. Ryan Fitzpatrick throughout his 13, 14, 15-year career, a lot of the issues that you're hearing that are plaguing Jordan Love and Justin Herbert, they were in Fitzpatrick's game. And y'all can discount what he did this year. That's fine. That's your opinion. You think it was all the season he had was a result of him throwing up 50-50 balls every game to Devontae Parker. I beg to differ, bro. That's why people need to get in the tape and watch actually overall now and evaluate his game, the level of the implementation of that structure, that discipline from a mechanical standpoint. Again, think about what Fitzpatrick, the year that he had with the worst rushing attack in 100+ year history of the NFL. When the threat of the run is not present on an offense, okay, and defensive coordinators know that, all they do is they're playing the pass, okay. So what that creates is smaller windows, okay. That made Fitzpatrick had to improve in his ball placement, in his anticipation, and also his improvisation, okay? And that same tutelage that I'm just saying, if we're not able to select Tua or Joe Burrow, if we select Jordan Love or Justin Herbert, all I'm saying is to the Miami Dolphin fan base that are already killing these other two prospects, that same tutelage, that implementation of structure into Ryan Fitzpatrick's game, it will be immense for these two prospects that are so far superior physically than Joe Burrow and even Tua Tagovailoa. And if you get that aspect of their game just up to average, and man, you have a Pro Bowl quarterback sitting right in your lap. That's all I'm saying.
That's the thing with Burrow and Tua, you'd be selling a day one guy, but you have to understand with Herbert and Love, you'd be selling. If you fixed his footwork and his overall upper body mechanics, you're selling a super high ceiling that in 2 or 3 years, if we work on this guy and we get his mechanics, and like when you watch Jordan Love, he's got more repeatable mechanics than Justin Herbert. So he's just got to work on his decision making. That's what you'd be selling. If we work on this guy's decision making we could have a top 5 quarterback in either way.
And look at the quarterbacks that have benefited from that exact same structure. Jimmy Garoppolo starting in the Super Bowl. Ryan Tannehill, AFC Championship game. And TD, if you recall, let's be fair. Let's keep it 100. You probably won't agree. You probably won't acknowledge this. But over the course of the year in our private chats, what have I been when we discuss Ryan Tannehill? What have I been saying all year?
I would never deny that. You see a structure. You finally see a structure in his game. I just couldn't get you to say it live.
Yeah, bro. Look at your Jacoby Brissett's of the world. Okay, that same tool. I don't know what they're doing in New England and everybody else is not doing, but obviously they're doing something right. So that same tutelage, that same philosophy is here in South Florida. So
you know what it is, Dan? You know what it is, Dan? I'll tell you right now what it is. I'll tell you what it is, TD. Like, look at how good Bridgewater was in New Orleans, right? Now, what's the common theme? Tom House. Drew Brees and Tom Brady have Tom House, who was a quarterback coach and works on your mechanics. And like I've said before, he's the one who turned Drew Brees now has the exact same throwing motion as former Braves pitcher Greg Maddux. and that's because of Tom House. So that's I think that's the theme. I think they found out what the magic sauce is in terms of mechanics.
You feel that we have that in Miami.
Yep, Flores, man.
Absolutely.
No, I know. I wanted people to understand. That's what we were getting back to.
And that's what I think, TD. I think they're not seeing it translate where it needs to be. It may have translated a little bit, but I don't think they've seen it translated as well or where it needs to be with Josh Rosen as it did with Matt Castle, Jacoby Brissett, et cetera, et cetera. I don't think they saw those leaps, and I think that's why they're moving on.
Yeah, exactly.
And like EM said,
at the end of the day, it's up to that individual player to put the necessarily work in. Okay, my issue with Josh Rosen is, okay, he just has nothing to, in my opinion, as far as his overall skill set. There's nothing there to build upon, in my opinion. You got to have some. Ideally, you want some aspect of arm.
It's got a pretty strong arm.
I don't see that. I see average arm strength, slightly to above arm strength. That's what I see in Josh Rosen.
I don't know. I see a pretty strong arm, man.
But
even there were some throws I was watching yesterday. I watched some film on Rosen yesterday, and there were some. It would he would come up on the run, and that's who it was. It was Rosen, not Herbert, where he threw into the undercutting corner with the safety high above the guy, and you just had the eyes lock on. Anyways, the arm. Man, this guy rolled out to the left and back foot, off the back foot, and just slinged it on. Rosen just slinged it on. He's got an arm. I've always said he's got arms.
I'm not saying his arm is on the level of, he doesn't have a pop gun arm. I'm just saying his arm strength is average to slightly above, in my opinion. But my point I was trying to make, as far as with a quarterback, when you're talking about from a coaching perspective, when you're looking when you're talking about reconstructing a quarterback's game, you have to have something. You want to have an aspect of their game that's well above average or elite. And in my opinion, with Josh Rosen, he's just subpar in too many categories of too many aspects of his game to build upon, to be a legitimate starter, to be a franchise quarterback that's succeeding, Dan Marino, in my opinion.
I see Rosen as a system quarterback. That's how I see Rosen. Rosen is not a quarterback that when the play break down or nobody is open, he not going to get outside the pocket and make something happen. That's not Rosen. Rosen is a system quarterback, and that's how I see. I don't see him as a playmaker like a Patrick Mahomes or somebody like that. That's kind of why I like Tua more, because I see Tua as, okay, if the play don't break down or if something don't go quite right, he's still gonna try to make something happen. That's why he got hurt in the first place. He didn't want to give up on the play. He got hurt, and that's how he got hurt. You know what I'm saying? So, and Rosen gonna get another chance to start.
Oh, for
just
sure.
To let y'all, just to let y'all know.
Sure. Rosen will be a backup. Again, when you have
they will
players
give a chance. He will start an NFL game again for sure.
But look, when you have, this is what I'm saying about Josh Rosen. My point.
Miami?
When you have when you see players,
New England Patriots.
When you see players where they're substandard in so many aspects of their games, you get backups. That's why they have backups. That's not a knock on Josh Rosen. It's what it is. But again,
so you're saying he's not gonna get another shot?
I think he will, because the Patriots, their top two targets right now is number one is Brissett, number two is Rosen.
Now, he might. I'm not down. I'm just saying, he won't get a shot in Miami, and that's all I'm concerned about.
Oh, okay.
I can give a flip where whatever coach gives an opportunity, he won't get one in Miami.
Did you see that video link I sent you, yesterday?
Yeah, I did.
Okay, so what it was, I'll tell you, Jay. What it was I was Dan Orlovsky, and they were talking about it, the possibility of him going to the Patriots, and from what he said. And what's crazy is, because we've kind of been saying this, is that from what he understands,
that's fine, bro.
He doesn't know football.
That's fine.
He knows football, but he doesn't know football when it comes to disguise coverages, pre-snap reads, post snap reads. That's what Dan Orlovsky was basically stressing, that he's not really up to par in those situations, and that's what I've been saying the whole time. That's what everything was telling me when I watch him pre-snap and post-snap, and when I watch him against disguised coverages, he looks like a deer in headlights at times. Yeah. And that's what I've been saying. Yeah. I've been saying it's just as much up here with Josh Rosen as it's turning into his traits, right? Like I'll give him the arm strength. I'll always give him the arm strength because I know even when you watch film of him coming out of college, that was like one of his biggest traits was his arm strength. So
I disagree.
I mean, you can disagree all you want. That was when you go look at his traits on any scouting report, arm strength is on it. So
above average to slightly above average arm strength. That was on his scouting report. People that I follow when they evaluated him. But go ahead.
I've never seen above. I don't believe above average. So
I'll show you later.
you show me all you want. I've watched a ton of him in UCLA. So that's what I think you were coming into, man. Like I said, people don't, and I keep telling this, I keep hammering it so people who just sit on the couches will finally catch up and watch both. People do not understand the jump in speed from the collegiate level to the NFL, and that's just not on the field play. That comes to your processing speed, which is something I was always knocked him for. I don't think he was an average processor at best at UCLA. What are you going to be in the NFL when you got more complicated schemes, when you got faster players, acting like they're not going to be somewhere, then all of a sudden they're right there. You know what I'm saying? You got to be when you play to be an elite NFL quarterback. I mean, you got to be an elite processor, and that's one of the biggest traits you need to be elite is your processing speed. And I think I don't think he's where it needs to be, and I think that's why they're moving on from him. And I think that's why we're hearing Joe Burrow. I think that's why we're hearing Joe Burrow and TUA the most, because they're the best processors in the draft.
That's accurate. But again, if you are substandard in different levels of your game, you have to have something to fall back on. Like Lamar Jackson, he's not an elite processor. What does he have to fall back on? His athleticism. Lamar Jackson doesn't have an elite arm. He doesn't have elite anticipation. But what does he have to fall back on? Always his feet. So my point is, again, you have to have something to build upon. You have to, and Rosen is he's too below average in too many aspects of his game. And that's why, and that's just not just a Rosen issue. That's a fundamental coach. That's coming from a fundamental coaching perspective. Mm-hmm. That's just how the NFL is.
That's what Dan Orlovsky said, right? That they blame the coaches that he's had his whole career, that they haven't taught him football enough. They haven't taught him the nuances of football. His coaches haven't done the right job. And you're already at this stage in your career. You're going to your third year in the NFL. Yeah, you're 22, 23, but you're 3 years deep in the NFL. That's the difference. So
I want to ask y'all a question. And EM and Reason, I had messaged y'all, by the way. I wanted to see if y'all can help me with that. I just wanted to back up just for a second, because back on Love and Herbert for one moment, because you be wrong, because EM was 1,000% right when he said this, man. You be wrong to think that these guys aren't worth being drafted.
Yeah.
For your franchise, literally to become a franchise quarterback. But which one do you covet most if it does come down to that? Somebody jumps us and get TUA. We can't go up and get Burrow. We just out of luck in that regards. Which one is the best fit for us? I want to get your thoughts on that. And on Reason and EM, if y'all just check y'all messages. In the meantime, I just wanted to see if y'all got the text that I sent. I want y'all to help me with that.
Yeah, I did, bro. I got it.
Okay, cool.
Let me go grab my phone, you guys, and then I'll put my input in on that question.
All right, so what's your thoughts, EM?
Me, as we're sitting here today, my personal preference between Herbert and Love, I have them dead even for the most part. But where I give Justin Herbert a slight edge is his overall athleticism. I mean, he is an imposing athlete. In essence, he's the white version of Cam Newton is what he is. If you go and you evaluate his measurables, if you go and evaluate his measurables at the combine and you pull up Cam Newton's, they are like mirror images of each other. And I personally think he's even more of a refined passer. He might even be a more refined passer than Cam Newton is right now, even right now. So I prefer at this point, because I just think even in a scenario, and even in a scenario, if Herbert has to start immediately, I think his overall physical package, his overall physical traits is something are so elite that you can plug him in immediately and you can have a level of success, i.e. Josh Allen. And
so you
can just ride with that. You can just ride with that. And in the meantime, you know, as long as he's putting the work in, and you just look to build upon the other aspects of his game down the road. I think you can bring him in because it's so many things you can do. It's so many ways you can take advantage of an athlete like that at that position, schematic wise, to where, and you can hide his deficiencies. Again, like I said, if a scenario unfolds where Fitzpatrick is, you know, he reverts back to Fitztragic, you know what I mean? Or he gets hurt, I think you can plug Herbert in. Now, you might not see, you might not get the equivalent from a statistical standpoint that you might with Ryan Fitzpatrick, but there are ways that it's all about moving the chains and moving the football. Okay. Again, his overall physical skill set is so many ways from a schematic standpoint, you can take advantage of him and have a level of success. So I'm leaning towards Justin Herbert slightly at this point, but that's not to knock Jordan Love. Jordan Love is, you know, he's athletic as well. He's slightly shorter. You know, he's like 6'4" and some change, and you know, Justin Herbert is like a legit 6'6". But I just give him the overall arm strength. I give the slight edge to Justin Herbert, in my opinion.
So with that, because Reason's gonna tell us which one he would rather, but I want to ask the second part of that question to you, Ian, before Reason gives it to us. So who has the higher ceiling between the two? Not upside, but ceiling.
I think Herbert, bro. I think Herbert has. I've said this before to Reason. I mean, me and Reason, we had an extremely spirited argument about this about a week ago, right? Even to the point where he hung up on me. Check this out.
No, what do you mean that just could get out of here? Hung up on you.
Listen.
Hung up on
I think I compare Herbert's ceiling. I think he has the highest ceiling in this draft, and the only prospect that I see in the immediate future that is comparable to his overall ceiling is Trevor Lawrence. I truly believe that. Now, again, Herbert has issues. Herbert has processing issues. He has anticipatory issues. He has mechanical issues, okay? But I look at Herbert and I look at comparing him, cross-referencing him with Joe Burrow, with Tua, with Trevor Lawrence. And I have to ask myself, if Herbert had the coaching that these other prospects have, if he had the weaponry that these other prospects have, how far along would we be mentioning him in the same light as far as the mechanical aspect of his game? Because that's his biggest issue. Okay, because if you improve his base and if you improve his mechanics, all of the other aspects of his game are going to immediately improve. So that's the question I have with Herbert. And, you know, again, like I said, his overall physical skill set, I just think he's got the highest ceiling out of all of them. And I think Miami is in a position where they're not going to mortgage for Joe Burrow. And again, I could be totally wrong. But I don't think they're going to mortgage the farm for Joe Burrow. They're not going to mortgage the farm for Tua. But I think they are content. They look at these individual physical skill sets of Herbert and Jordan Love. And again, that the implementation of their overall philosophy that they brought from New England, they're thinking, oh, well, we can coach we can improve immediately. We can improve the other aspects of their game. And then if we do that, their overall ceiling is higher than the other two prospects anyway. So I think that's Miami's mindset in terms of the draft. But I just think Herbert, I haven't seen it's him and Trevor Lawrence if you're talking about overall ceilings, in my opinion. But go ahead, Reason. Go ahead.
Okay. Wow, I can't believe I just heard this guy getting compared to Lawrence's ceiling.
Hey, wow. I'm telling you, man.
Bro, what are you smoking out there in Texas, bro? Is it the
I
good
hear you. Yeah, it's some good stuff.
Bro,
It's some good
okay,
stuff. Some good
so
stuff, bro.
my whole thing is, and I gotta go after I say this because my daughter's up. You know, I would pick Jordan Love. Now, if you want to get into where they're at right now, I think you just need to. I think there's a lot less to work on with Jordan Love.
I agree with that.
And we talk about elite arm strength with Herbert, which obviously, but the ball still jumps out of Love's hand. You know, when you actually get into it, he's actually one of the best in this class at avoiding sacks. I think only converted pressure to sacks was only a 15.9%, which is like really, really good. I like his touch, especially like when you get into like throwing over linebackers and safeties. I like his touch there a little bit better than what I like Herbert's. I like Herbert's touch when when the receiver is blown by everyone, for sure. I just think when you break down their game, I can account for a lot of the 17 picks not being on bad decision making, whereas when I go to Herbert, a lot of his picks were bad decision making. And I told DM this. A scary thing that's popped out for me at Justin Herbert is when I go to the film, he throws one of the most inconsistent and sometimes downright ugly out routes. When you get to that 10 to 15 yard, he has serious struggles with that for some reason. And that bugs me. And when you go to, no, I don't got time for that debate, bro. Go ahead. And then when you break down his intermediate from up to 10 yards, I mean, 50th in the nation in accuracy percentage from 0 to 10 yards. So, and what's scary about that too is they ran a lot of bubble screens. I mean, I think he had like a 66% completion percentage, 64%, and like 30% of his overall completions came from bubble screens. So then I'm like, okay. So, and we do agree it's a pop gun offense a little bit for sure. The offensive line coach was calling the plays, so I don't deny that. But I don't think at this stage too, Herbert can throw. I was talking about this earlier. Jordan Love can throw on any angle. Herbert can't. For as elite as an athlete Herbert is, and as elite as his athleticism is, it scares me that doesn't translate to plays with that big of an arm outside of the pocket. And consistently it doesn't. That's a big knock on him. Whereas Jordan Love can get outside the pocket and burn you. And then when I look at when you take their best tapes, right? When you take the sophomore season of Jordan Love, and when you take either the freshman or junior season from Justin Herbert, I like Love's tape better. And even if you take, you're going to say, this year, Justin Herbert, he threw as many touchdowns as Jordan Love did. Yeah, well, he also had the best line in the nation. Jordan Love, at best, has only ever had competent talent around him. Like what I call Darwin Thompson great? No, and that was his best weapon. So that's where I'm at with that. I see a higher ceiling with Love because I've seen a lot less with Love in terms of stuff around him. And when I already see a guy who he's got a far more consistently repeatable motion mechanically than Herbert, that's another thing that, it might end up being where Love starts before Herbert in terms of if they both sit on the bench for a year or two, because Love developmentally, mechanical wise, he's ahead of him right now. It's just he's got to work on that decision making, but a lot of it could be because, I mean, when you go to his receiving core last year, they were downright awful. We're talking about guys who weren't getting any separation, and it almost got Tom Brady like, where it's like, okay, well, I've made it through my second or my third read. No one's separating. I'm just going to throw the ball. And when you're talking about that role play. So, like, I like what I see from Jordan Love, but at the end of the day, I don't want people to take this as I wouldn't want Herbert, because Herbert to me has the second highest ceiling in this draft. And I agree that if you work on the decision making and a little bit of trusting to go through your progressions a little bit more with Jordan Love, I think you're going to have something very special. Whereas if you get Justin Herbert in a consistent, repeatable, mechanical motion from top to bottom, from upper body to the feet, because I've seen it. There are times where his arm's tucked and it's a perfect motion and that ball's on the money. So I've seen it. But the thing is, we talked about earlier, tendencies with humans are you go back to your natural habits, but you know what you trust. That's why you see him swim a lot with that front arm. And I think if you were to do the same with Herbert, get those mechanics down pat, and, he needs a little bit of help with his decision-making, because there are times where you scratch your head and go, why are you throwing that? You know what I mean? Like, he'll throw, I think I was talking to you. He threw, like a dig route, and the corner was right in front of and it just keeps trusting his arm, that his arm was strong enough to beat that corner. I'm like, what are you doing? Like literally, the pat to the receiver, the corner was right there. Literally right there. And the corner couldn't even handle the ball because he slung it so hard. Because he's just like, I can beat you through it. So you get those kind of things out. The ability, a lot of these guys, we talk about legs when they leave pockets, it's because a lot of guys like Jalen Hurts, they trust their legs too much. The problem is when you got a big cannon a bazooka on your right arm, you're going to trust it too much. So you got to trust touch, ball placement, anticipation sometimes more than your arm strength. And I think that's something he's got to learn. So that's another thing he's got to work on. So I think they both have things to work on. I think Jordan Love has less to work on, which appeals to me more. But I still think if both of them work on these things, they could end up being better than Tua and Burrow in 10 years.
Well, that's what
the feelings are so high. It's just you got to get there, and that's work. And we talk about this all. Time is one thing a lot of people don't have in the NFL. So you gotta put in the work, man. That's all it is. But on that note, I gotta go, boys. I'm out. My daughter's awake.
All right.
All right,
take
bro.
it easy. We'll talk later.
All right, bro. Later. But you there? Can you hear me, bro?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I can hear you.
But
I'm here.
But yeah, I just think again, you're taking into account the situation as well that either one of these prospects will be drafted in if we wind up selecting them. It's the perfect scenario, perfect, ideal for them to sit and learn. And again, what have I been consistent about? Any coach, when they're taking these prospects, and I don't care at any position, their game is going to be scaled down and rebuilt according to the vision that whatever coach selected them has for that particular player. So I'm taking all of that into account, the situation from the overall roster on the offensive end that they have at their disposal. Again, I have them similar. I have similar grades on both of them, but I just give Herbert the overall edges because he's just that much superior from an athletic standpoint than what Jordan Love is. And again, like I said, reason we've had numerous, conversations about this, between the two. And I just don't, my thing is I've seen a lot of negativity as far as Justin Herbert is concerned, online, like people comparing him to Ryan Tannehill. They see, and I was like that too until I initially, when the year started. But once I started digging into tape and once he went to the combine, man, I said, wow, no, that's not Ryan Tannehill. Make no mistake about it. At this stage, when Ryan Tannehill was coming out and when Justin Herbert coming out this year, that's not Ryan Tannehill 2.0. I'm telling you, he's so far ahead, right?
I'm not gonna say that Justin Herbert ain't better than Love in the arm strength category. Anybody could clearly look at Herbert and say, yeah, he got a strong arm and he got good arm talent. But as far as overall intangibles of what they can do, I kind of see Jordan Love as a little bit better than Herbert right now.
And I would agree with that at this point. I would agree with that.
Only thing that I don't like about Herbert, like picking Herbert, you have to understand that you're gonna have to work with him. And see, when we drafted Tannehill wasn't good at the deep ball. He had to work at it. It took him a couple of years before he could throw the deep ball perfectly like how he throw it now. Thinking about think about everything that Herbert have to work on. Think about it taking him the same amount of time it took Tannehill to work on that deep ball. That's how it's going to take Herbert to work on his accuracy issues. he got a strong arm, but it's just that his accuracy is not there, and that's the only thing that I'm worried about with Herbert. Go ahead.
My question, and I brought this up to reason, I don't know how many times. Is that a product? Is that a product of the offense that he was in? And again, it goes back to what I'm saying. If he had at his disposal all of these other, if he had at his disposal what Tua had from a coaching standpoint, from an overall talent standpoint, same thing with Trevor Lawrence, same thing with Joe Burrow, would we be sitting here saying the same things? And I'm not saying they're not legitimate concerns, but I think where Herbert is different statistics that Reason brought up about like his accuracy when he escapes the pocket, and you would think a player with that kind of arm strength would be more consistent in terms of the distribution of the football once he escapes trouble and gets outside the pocket. I get that. I understand that. But again, is that a product of the scheme? Does he not have that ability? I have to ask that question. I mean, these are legitimate questions we have to ask about him. Now, again, get him in Miami. They select him again. Any quarterback's game, I don't care who it is, when they're coming from the collegiate level and they're going to the NFL, their games are going to be scaled down regardless. I don't care who Tua's game will be. If Brian Flores sees, once they evaluate him, they get him in their quarterback, they get him in their program, and they're sitting in that quarterback room, they are highlighting every aspect of his game that they see, that they deem that improvement is needed upon. Okay, so their games are going to be scaled down regardless. Now I get some quarterbacks are more refined in certain areas. I get that, but I just think Herbert, and again, I have them neck and neck. I just give Herbert the slight edge in terms of his overall arm strength. I just think it's so far ahead of everyone else. I think giving him that nod is I think it's worth it. Giving him that, a slightly better evaluation at this point. Now, Jordan Love might turn around. Jordan Love might come into the league and he might turn out to be Patrick Mahomes 2.0. But I just think Herbert, again, with the implementation of the overall philosophy in terms of developing these quarterbacks, the same philosophy that Jimmy Garoppolo benefited from, your Jacoby Brissett's of the world, Tom Brady, the greatest of all time. He was not an elite prospect coming into the league. If he was, he would have been picked higher than the 6th round pick. That same overall, the implementation of that same overall philosophy. And again, if they just get him to, subpar, those other aspects that we deem he's deficient in his game, get it to just average. You got again, I use the comparison to Ben Roethlisberger, because if you break down Ben Roethlisberger's game over his, overall over his career, he's never been the most mechanically sound quarterback. He's never been a quarterback that you say in comparison with your Peyton Mannings and your Tom Brady's that his anticipatory skills are not on their level. You know what I mean? As far as his deciphering defenses, it's never been on the level of Peyton Manning and Tom Brady. But this quarterback has 2 Super Bowl rings, and he's going to the Hall of Fame. So we're when you're comparison to quarterbacks that have elite, mechanics from a mechanical standpoint, the mental aspect of the game, when you're comparing him to Breeze, Brady, Peyton Manning, he's not on par with them, but you can win with that. But he's so far superior athletically. He's got a bigger arm than they would ever dream of. And when he came into the league, he was athletic. You know what I mean? He could get out, he could extend plays. My point with Justin Herbert is you can win with that immediately. And when Roethlisberger initially came into the league, they did a lot of things with him. And this is the point I'm making with Herbert from a schematic standpoint. There are a lot of things within the confines of your offense that you can use, that you can take advantage of that elite athleticism and take advantage of that, number one, and mask the deficiencies that he has, from a mental standpoint and a mechanical standpoint. You can win with that. Josh Allen is a prime example. You can win with
But I want to ask you guys. I want to ask you guys on that note because we've been talking about Tua, we've been talking about Burrow, we've been talking about Love, we've been talking about Herbert, we even talked about Rosen. Are we being unfair to one specific quarterback that we're not talking about?
Well,
I know who that is.
You mean Rosen?
Jake Ruddock.
Josh Rosen.
Oh, Jake Ruddock.
Oh, Jake Ruddock. I told y'all.
The reason why I say that because I remember preseason. I thought he played the best football in preseason over Fitz and Rosen.
He did,
and he's continued to get better. And are we just unfairly just glancing over this guy? They did sign him on a futures deal.
They did. I told y'all this about 2 months ago in our private chats. The biggest threat to Josh Rosen's roster spot is Jake Ruddock. Because that, in my opinion, is our backup quarterback. That's the backup right there, the future backup. So if Rosen is not going to be, they're not going to carry Josh Rosen as a third quarterback on the depth chart. They're not. So I think, in my opinion, and again, I could be totally off base with this point. Okay. Ruddock is the future backup. And again, he's the biggest threat to Josh Rosen's roster spot because Rosen is not going to be the starter. That's obvious. Fitz he has 1 year tops next year. You know, I'd be shocked if they brought him back as a starter for, a second year. A third year. But Ruddock is the future backup. Fitz has 1 year's top, and they're selecting the quarterback that they deem will be the starter moving forward. And Rosen, again, I keep telling y'all, Rosen. I told you Flores. He sent me that bus ticket months ago. He said, "EM, just sit on this. Don't print it yet. Just sit on this. It's in my inbox. I'm gonna screenshot it and send it to you, TD." But I just think Rosen is gonna be dealt at some point. And you're seeing quietly. You're hearing the rumblings, the whispers. The conversation has already started with linking Rosen in a possible trade. We've been telling y'all that all year. We've been telling everybody all year.
I don't think Rosen gonna be here long either. But what I do believe, because when they did the interview and they was talking to Flores did say Rosen gonna have a chance to prove himself. So I do believe that he gonna get a chance this year to start. At some point. It may not be in the very beginning of the season. Whether it's in the beginning or the middle, which I believe he gonna have another chance. And if he don't prove himself this time, then yeah, I think he gone.
You know what I think? I think that was Flores' response, and I could be off base here. It's the conspiracy theorist coming out of me right now. But what I gather from his response when those beat writers inquired about Josh Rosen, I think Flores was being very politically correct because they don't want to harm his trade value. They want to recoup. Okay. They want to recoup and recover as much as what they gave up for Rosen. Now, they're not going to get a second round pick. They can forget about that.
Most definitely not.
But if he comes out and says directly, Rosen is not a part of our future plans, he's not going to do this, that kills his trade value. That kills his trade value. So I think Flores, again, the fact that they are willing to mortgage whatever the price tag is, that they're even contemplating this, mortgaging as much as it would take to move up from 5 to 1 or 5 to 3, tells you everything they think of about Josh Rosen. That tells you everything, because they're going to be selecting a quarterback in the top 5, and possibly they have to give up additional assets. There is no way in the world Josh Rosen. There is no way in the world they're going to make that kind of investment in a quarterback this year and turn around and give Josh Rosen the reins to the franchise. There is no way. Absolutely
whoever we draft is, I don't believe they start in day one anyway. So why not give him another chance?
But like TD said, Ruddock performed better than all of them in the preseason last year. And if Jake Ruddock comes into OTAs and comes into training camp and he's competent, they said, well, and if he plays like he did last year, I'm telling you, that is the biggest threat to Josh Rosen's roster spot. It's not Fitzpatrick, it's not Tua, it's not Joe Burrow, it's not Herbert, it's Ruddock, because that is the fact that they signed him to a future contract is telling me they're willing to invest in this player in a backup capacity. And Rosen is not going to be the starter. He's not. They're telling you everything how they feel about. I don't care what Flores. He's improved. He's improving daily. He's doing this, but he can't get on the field. Come on. Again, Dolphin Nation, learn to navigate through the PR game that's always being played in the NFL. You know what I mean? And they are playing the PR game because they do not want to kill. They do not want to diminish Josh Rosen's potential trade value. Period. That's what I think. And again, I ain't a fly on the wall in the meetings with him and Chris Greer. I don't know this to be 100% correct. No birdie tapped me on my shoulder. I'm just going by basic observation, what they say and what they've done and what they are doing. And it just tells me Josh Rosen's tenure in Miami is soon coming to an end.
Well, I'm gonna say this because I gotta go, but I'm gonna say this real quick. I think when Ruddock was playing in preseason, I believe he did play better than everybody else with the time that he was allotted in the games that he played. He played the best out of everybody. Now that would be an interesting camp battle that I would love to see between Rosen, Fitzpatrick, and Ruddock, and whoever else we draft, because I do believe we drafting the quarterback. That would be a very interesting camp battle.
Yeah. Oh, no doubt.
I appreciate you, J. Rose.
All right, y'all.
All right, now.
I'm gone.
But yeah, again, TD, I think, we talked about this, earlier in the year. I just think, Rosen's tenure in Miami, it's going to be a relatively short one, and it should, because he's giving you nothing. He's giving you nothing to say he's worth a further investment, not at that capacity, not as a starter. And again, you're not selecting. I think the fact that they signed Jake Ruddock, the fact that how well he played, number one, and two, the fact that they signed him to a future contract, that told me everything that I need to know what they thought about him. Okay. Now Rosen, like I said, bro, Ruddock is the biggest threat to his roster spot because he's not going to be the starter here, and he'll be dealt. And you're already saying, I've been sending y'all in our private chat all of the what did I say? The conversation has already started. You're seeing quietly, and that is where when you see the conversation started quietly, okay, you're seeing it now before any trade or whatnot or any moves that are being made. Okay, you generally start to hear the whisper. Somebody is talking somewhere, and they're putting it out there.
But back on what you were saying earlier, because we're about to end the stream soon, but I think you can still get a second for Rosen.
You think so?
It's the quarterback position, and say you do have.
I will hope.
Say you do have a team like New England, they might be looking at their next Tom Brady to them. How did people feel about Tom Brady as a 6th round pick? They probably looked at him just the same as Josh Rosen. So it just depends to me. But I think you can get a second if the situation is right. But we'll pick this up later, man. We'll pick this up later, man. This was a great conversation. I think we were 2.5 hours. That was awesome, man. But this is TD FINSTALK, home of the real Miami Dolphin fans. I appreciate you, EM. Appreciate you.
All right, bro.
Reason for coming through. J. Rose, shout out to you, homie. And I appreciate y'all help on this one. I'll see y'all later. This is TD FINSTALK. I'm out.
Bro.
Peace.